Oh, we can't see the video. I think we can just see
Oh,
Amartya seeing the
wait.
video.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we can do is I've got it downloaded. मैं screen share करूँ?
No, no, it's fine. I'm reading
तो
the
तीन
lyrics and I think I can. I'm glad that I think I can imagine what is
we don't have
happening.
to be subjected to it all over
What
again.
is this?
Mammoplasty,
Yes,
vaginoplasty,
yes,
rhinoplasty,
yes,
laryngoplasty,
yes,
mammoplasty,
yes,
vaginoplasty,
yes,
rhinoplasty,
yes.
laryngoplasty, control laryngoplasty,
What is that?
Adam's apple reduction.
Yes, 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 yes.
What the fuck?
जादू मंतर जादू मंतर जादू मंतर You are going into the future.
You talking to me?
They always be the scene closing.
என் பேர் மாணிக்கம் எனக்கு இன்னொரு பேர் இருக்கு
Talking to me?
Queen is dead. Before we start the episode, I think it's very important to set the tables that you guys have designated me as the edgy
Yes.
nihilist who likes
Nihilist.
pornography.
Nihilist pornography.
Yeah, edgy nihilist who likes
Yes.
pornography. So that's my, I guess, introduction for this episode. And
And I'm the musical hater who thinks that it should be made like Salo or 120 Days of Sodom. Everybody should be
Yes.
treated to that punishment.
and Chris, what description are you running with?
I think I'll take the worst one. Late stage Mohanlal hater.
Okay,
Yes,
fine.
he is
That's
the
the one
मुझे
that
जूते
is that's.
मुझे सबसे ज्यादा जूते पड़ेंगे.
Oh,
Okay?
that's true actually. Yeah, you are the
That
one
is
who is
actually
most
true.
susceptible to
Yes.
that. So yes, I think that sets the table for the episode today. So hello. Welcome to a first of its kind episode for Queen is Dead. Chris wants to take credit for this episode. I think just because his presence has made us, accept that we have to talk about the muck of this year, what comes
His
out, and
presence has also made us more social media open at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he is still the most social media open. We are old people
उसके
trying
वजह
to
से
sort
I
of.
am going to blame Chris entirely for this. उसके वजह से I got mad at one guy and got into a Twitter rant. उसके वजह से I got mad.
I will take that credit happily.
I
No more
got mad.
dramas.
I got so mad. Like Dhruv
Uh,
also
for-
saw my
He
Insta
went-
story.
So
Yes.
how many stories did you put up, man? I was scrolling through them like, sir, कर क्या रहे हो?
For
Sir,
this,
I had
you can
drank,
check
sir, I drank
Amartya's
4 pegs of
accounts.
whiskey. I was mad. ठीक है, मेरा Christmas party ended. मेरा Christmas party ended with me feeling
What a
sorry
Merry
because of my.
Christmas.
Yeah, मेरा Christmas party ended with me, feeling extremely bad क्योंकि पहली बात 4 साल हो गए हैं, पापा नहीं रहे. I was missing my dad. बहुत खराब था. फिर I remember that fucking tweet and I got mad again.
So
So
Twitter
I was
से
like,
if you
fuck
start
you.
getting
I was
mad
like, fuck you.
from Twitter, then तो हो गया ना काम. फिर तो खत्म ही हो गया अपन का सब. Anyways, see, this episode
But I
is going to
didn't
come
post
out.
it on Twitter, nah, because I'm not an idiot. I didn't
Sure.
post it
You
on
posted
Twitter.
on
nah, I
Instagram,
posted-
which is a saner
True.
site. Yes.
Yes, it's a saner
Anyways,
site, yes.
my point is that this episode, because Chris is going to share it on his Twitter, it will anyways hopefully get people who getting angry at either Chris or Amartya or me. All three, hopefully, like we are not. We can be also as disappointing as these films slash series were to us. To like
हाँ,
so
मैं तो
it's all-
disappointment हुई. डायरेक्टर्स को मुझे पसंद नहीं, तो मैं तो
But that is a
disappointment
good
हुई
thing.
ऐसे.
Directors and critics के बीच में थोड़ा divide I think होना चाहिए. Like not
हाँ.
like कि they'll meet in public and want to hit each other, but like they'll want to
I
एक
actually
दो-
want that. Be that animals.
True.
Be that animals. I want that. Be that animals. That will work.
Okay, let's
मुझे ये
not
conglomeration पसंद नहीं है.
This is first of all, it is not my Twitter, it is our Twitter, and also
No,
this
you
is
are
the
what's
official.
handling it ना. You're the admin. हम लोग तो बस आके बस एक दो
Yeah,
घटिया comments मार
but
देते हैं.
still,
Yeah.
still, and also this is we need a title for this, like the 2024 haters conference or some अच्छा
It's not
title
haters
we
conference.
need
So
to put it up.
I'm going to title it something along the lines of the
Disappointments
disappointments of
Bureau.
the year.
The
This-
Disappointments Bureau.
Disappointments we are no, but I think I'm going to title it that simply because I think there are titles here which we will sort of conflict on, which and there are titles here which I think are genuine disappointments, but
I
then
just
there's
want to reiterate. I
Hmm.
just want to reiterate this point, which I think every member of the Queen is Dead podcast uh, group
Hmm.
actually wants to, impart, even though
Hmm.
we come off as haters or pretentious a-holes.
Yeah.
I completely take all of those tags. Okay, I am a
Hmm.
hater, I am a pretentious asshole. I'm going to take that tag happily.
Yeah.
My point being, I genuinely want to like every movie. That includes
Yes.
musicals.
Hmm.
That includes musicals wholeheartedly. I want to
Yeah.
like every movie I watch. I want to enjoy each and every moment that every cinephile goes through when they watch a movie and they're so
Yeah.
excited that we will write 20 threads on it. I want to go through that. I want to feel that excitement.
Yeah.
So जब मैं गुस्सा होता हूँ, इसका मतलब that movie pissed me the fuck off.
Yeah. And that's fair. And I think what we'll try and do, and I'm setting it as a try and do as opposed to we will do. We will try and keep this a sort of amicable, civil. Why we don't like it, like being constructive, not just throwing dirt on the TV
To
show
be
or
fair, मेरा
film.
opening reaction towards Emilia Perez already put that thing to
I
bed
know
very
that, but
quickly.
like अब से try करेंगे वो होता है ना, you need the opener to be like a sort of bombastic sort of thing where you grab the viewer's attention. अब I'm losing everyone's attention by being somewhat nuanced, but whatever, I will be that. Anyways, we'll try. We'll try. So the way we are going to proceed through this episode, because I think this year for me has been filled with high-profile disappointments. Let's just say that.
I also
Yeah, go
think
ahead.
we should talk about this year as well, because this is a very sparse year for movies in general.
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
so. At least, like from my personal point of view, there are few favorites, and a lot of my favorites actually
There
are
are a
still
lot of
like
mediocre movies this year.
from
Lot, like
yeah.
more than most.
I think the disappointments also is something I wanted to do because these are films not made by filmmaker like made by Milab Zaveri.
Journeyman.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, like
Journeyman or Idiots.
it's
Yeah,
not like we
not
are
by
talking about
Journeyman or Idiots.
Satyamev Jayate here, not
Yes,
the
yes.
Amir Khan TV show, the John Abraham and
The
Manoj Bajpayee
lovely
starrer.
Milap Milan's a very masala movie homage which he tried to do and basically gave everybody constipation for the next 20 years. But ठीक
Yes,
है.
yes. So we are not talking about that stuff. So we're not talking about your Indian twos and what is the other nonsense that you guys have seen?
We are
Singham
not
The
talking
again.
about
We've
one that
already
I
talked
we are not
get.
talking
about.
about Kanguva. We are not talking
Not
about
Huh.
talk about
Evatan
Bade
Mere
Miya Chote
Vatan.
Miya and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other Hindi gems we had this year.
Yeah,
Other
yeah. So
pan
not.
India gems. Let me remind
Hmm.
you again. We are people who watch movies from everywhere. So हमारा hatred universal है. ठीक है?
That is
आप
very
कहीं पे
true.
भी restricted नहीं है.
Yeah, yeah. You'll see this in our choices also today. But no, my point is
Yes.
that these films, what we have selected, aren't films which are sort of, which have already been dragged across the street by everyone on the internet. I think
Yes.
most of these films, I think, have had a somewhat divisive reception when it comes to critics and audiences, and amongst critics also. You'll find people who have like differing opinions on it. Some of them are awards contenders, which sort of, and I think Amartya has told you one of them, of course, which is going to come in. So the way in which we've structured this is that each of us has selected two films, which two films and well, let's just say one mini series for one person here. So we've selected two each, and then we all have sort
DVP,
of
that
watched
was a
it.
disappointment for me too, by the way. That
Disappointment?
miniseries.
Okay, that's one of the most crushing things I find it hard to believe that it's if there were a worst of list I was making, it would be in it. But anyways, we'll be talking about a lot of like two of each of our choices and then debating them. Some of them we'll be in agreement with, like each other. Some of them we won't. So I guess you should look forward to all of them because I think we want to have like a sincere discussion, and I guess we have to discuss also stuff where it's fine for high profile auteurs or filmmakers to disappoint us, and not liking one of their projects doesn't of course mean that we'll hate them or hate their other films. It's just one of those things which I think is good to acknowledge also, that some of the people whose work you love can disappoint you. I think that's one of the things which is hard to come by actually, because nowadays it becomes such a sort of echo chamber within sort of filmmaking fan clubs of like some certain people, that it's just like hard to then critically judge these things. But anyways, um, we have 6 films then to discuss. No honorable, we are not doing any honorable mentions or anything because these 6 films will take enough of our time in discussion. So
I would like to include one honorable mention
okay,
in
go
that.
ahead.
नो इन दैट कि मैंने मूवी देखा नहीं है, ठीक है, अभी
Okay.
तक तो देखा नहीं है क्योंकि मूवी आया नहीं है हमारे
Hmm.
चैनल पर. दैट इज ऑल्सो बिकॉज दिस इज विदुथलाई पार्ट 2. This
Ah,
is entirely possible that this movie might disappoint me
hmm.
a lot
It's
because I
it's got
have
a,
been.
divisive reception
It's
also.
got a very divisive reception.
Yeah.
उसी के वजह से I also got into a tirade with a guy. But
Yeah.
again,
We will link
this
that
could
title
entirely.
if you want.
I will link it in the show notes, no issue.
Okay.
So no,
So
but
pin it
again,
to your profile, please.
no, मत नहीं चाहिए वो सब मुझे नहीं चाहिए. But no, I'm just saying कि that is also a disappointment because if Vetrimaran of all people can disappoint you, that means every filmmaker is fallible. Every
Yeah.
filmmaker's filmmaking choice or every filmmaker's choice or which can push into indulgence to a lot of degree can disappoint you.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So building on the point of indulgence, I think we should. I guess you have preempted this, Amartya, by bringing up Emilia Perez. So I think we should just wrap that out. That's
Please do.
Chris's.
मुझे कुछ कहना नहीं है. I have already said everything I
I
have
think
to
Chris
say.
has a lot to say. It's Chris's pick
Yes.
for
Yeah.
most disappointing / worst films of the year, May, I think, right? So Chris, please go ahead, do the inauguration or sort of whatever Hall of Shame May inauguration of this lovely film by Jacques Audiard or Jacques Audiard. I don't know how to pronounce his French.
Jacques Audiard, yeah.
Emilia Pérez. Emilia Pérez. Emilia
Emilia.
Pérez. Emilia.
Eres tú.
Mingo.
My first pick is Emilia Perez, which premiered at Cannes earlier this year. And it's a musical. It's a, like Amartya was mentioning, it's a neo-noir musical, which is just fascinating.
In
Ludicrous
genre
is another word you
distinction.
can use very well. Fascinating se bhi
I'm
ludicrous is
trying-
another word
I'm-
you can use. Yes.
You're
I'm
trying
sort of
to be
easing
civil.
myself into it,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
I'm also being civil.
So-
See the words I'm using, ludicrous. Such a nice word. अच्छा लगता है ना सुन के. Anyway, continue.
You're
So
trying
it
very
was,
hard.
it's directed and co-written by Jacques Audiard. It was adapted from an opera libretto, which is a opera book essentially that he was writing, loosely adapted by based on a book called Écoutez by Boris Razon. It stars Selena Gomez, Zoe Saldana, and Carla Sofia Gascon.
Yeah.
And it's essentially the story of this leader of a drug cartel who wishes to leave that life behind them and transition to a woman, and recruits a lawyer, Zoe Saldana, to help her in that journey, and everything that happens as a consequence of that. Now, that is the most civil I am being in the summary of the film.
Yes.
I have a lot of issues with this film. And before I get to the fundamental issue, which is the film is genuinely extremely transphobic,
Yeah.
is the fact that it's in my opinion, a miserably made film.
Sure.
I think, what to me I describe it as, it's the artistic version of your favorite episode of your mid 2000s crime show set in Mexico with the piss yellow filter. But you try to make that into a musical. That is what Emilia Pérez is to me fundamentally.
Yeah.
So it's a musical. I say that in heavy quotes. The music is vile, to say the least. I mean, if Dhruv is including the wonderful reaction. So please, again, the most memorable quote I'd like to know about sex change operation. But
That's a song, by the way. That's the line.
I will put
That's
it.
the-
Don't worry.
Yes.
It's a song titled La Vaginoplastia. And I did not sign up for someone to scream vaginoplasty and mammoplasty to my face.
As the son of a
But
doctor and as someone who has grown up around doctors, I feel for the medical community. I feel for you. I wish
one
to
prayer.
my everlasting life that nobody in the medical community ever has to see this movie.
I mean, they probably
Yes.
have.
Okay, so
But okay.
so
Yes.
yeah, as a musical, it fundamentally fails because I think first of all the music is bad, but also I just think it I don't understand why this film is a musical. Like, you know, I think Joker Folie Du has more more right to be a musical than this film does, because at least it makes sense in the
We
larger
disagree
scheme of-
wholeheartedly, but okay. We
I mean,
disagree wholeheartedly.
Chris is not saying that Joker Folie was in any ways better. I mean, it is better.
I'm not saying it's better.
but-
I'm saying it makes more
More
sense.
sense, yeah.
That Joker
That's what I
Folie Du is
disagree
a
with. It doesn't
musical.
make more sense also. But anyway, doesn't
Okay.
matter. It doesn't make more sense.
Okay, to me,
Yeah.
at least marginally, it does. At least, given that, you know, all musicality of Arthur Fleck and all that, I have no idea why this film is a musical, and it's just, I think, very badly made. And I think Selena Gomez's performance in particular is near unwatchable. There is a particular scene that went quite viral of a three-way phone call between the three
Yeah, but
female
Chris,
leads.
okay, so I'll push back a little. I don't think she is as bad. I just think the character is really badly written also. She's not given anything to do.
No, I get that, but even
Yeah.
with what she's given to do, she's quite bad.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think there were too many other things that I was like,
I mean,
just,
to be fair, and this is not a pushback. This is not a pushback, and to all the fans of Only Murders in the Building, please don't kill me. But I think her limited acting range is kinda her entire shtick and her point. She's like a better version of Ryan Reynolds in a way, and this is not an insult. There are actors like Ryan Reynolds who are very good at the shtick that they do. Ryan Reynolds is not one of them. Selena Gomez is one of them.
but I think in this
So-
she's trying to go beyond that shtick, if that's also correct. I
Yes,
don't think,
and maybe that's why she fails quite badly. But anyway.
yeah, she gets a really off-putting musical number in her room, which I was just like, when it happened, I was like, why? Which, I mean, is the question that expression you can apply to like almost entirely the whole film. Like, but why?
Whole film, yeah.
Right, yeah, like that's
It's but why
yeah.
the movie?
yes.
So before, apart from the transphobia as well, you know, the discussion that Dhruv, Hemant and I were having about Anora before this, we spoke about this idea of identity politics when it comes to sort of discerning, you know, films and their empathy towards the characters that they're portraying. And generally, as I stated there, that I don't like sort of defaulting to, oh, this person is of XYZ identity, therefore you should disregard the film. But I think it is blaringly obvious here that Jacques Audiard is a white French cis man who is directing this film, both in the case of the trans representation, but also a lot of critics from Mexico have said that it is extremely poor in its representation of Mexico and the situation of the cartels, and extremely stereotypical. So that is one whole side of the discourse. But yes, coming to the transphobia, I think fundamentally the film is saying one thing and doing the exact opposite, in the sense that there is a running theme in the film that Carla Sofia Gascon's character, that is Emilia Pérez, is not transitioning to escape from her past. But the fact of the matter is that is what exactly the film says that she is doing, at least through its...
Sorry, Amartya, you're frozen / Are you basically prepping for a musical number? Because that's what it seems like also.
Building the anticipation.
Yes.
Now it's okay.
Yes.
Yes.
That was a
No,
great
I'm
pause.
just saying.
Eddie.
I'm just saying, isn't that the entire point of the whole, you know, plot itself?
No, it's not. The point is supposed to be, it is someone who is genuinely doing both. She's someone who is trying to both become a better person, and she becomes a better person by becoming her true self. Unfortunately, the way that the thematics of the film play out and the minor details of it play out, and there's an entire thing where she has to convince the doctor who's doing her operation that she is not doing this in order to escape her past. That's an entire huge that scene in the film. She explains that.
This is what she believes she is, right? That's the whole. Yes, yeah. But that is not
So-
what the whole film sort of goes into.
plays
Yeah.
out. And for that, I wanted to point out a particular sequence which to me shows the two fundamental problems. One is the lack of research and the thematic problem. So there is a song that happens with between Emilia Perez and her son. When her
Yes.
son can't fall asleep, they have this scene where her children are told that she is a distant cousin of their father.
Yeah.
And
A lot of
she
people have
comes
said
in
it's
and
Mrs. Doubtfire, essentially.
Mrs. Doubtfire, essentially. But
It is
the
Chachi
boy
420
notes
for the Hindi people.
For the Hindi people, it's Chachi 420.
Hindi people, yes. So he notes that Emilia Perez smells like his father. Now that is it's actually a huge, you might not realize it if you're a cis audience, but that's actually a huge issue for two main reasons. Number one, canonically, Emilia Perez has been transitioning for 6 years.
Yeah.
If you know anything about how estrogen works on the body and how trans healthcare works, in 6 years, you cannot physically smell like you did when you were pre-transition. So fundamentally, there is a problem with the research being done. Now, you can say I'm nitpicking, but the problem is that he then proceeds to say that all this perfume that you're putting on, I don't like, which means he's essentially saying that how much ever you try to glitz or glam yourself up or put on this facade of being a woman, you will always be the man that you are on the inside.
Yes.
That is just straight up transphobia.
That
Apart
is
from that,
basically
obviously,
that is basically the JK Rowling coming out of all of these people. But yes,
absolutely. And then pretending like it is extremely progressive. And then obviously, at the end, she has to die and then be made into this iconic
Martyred,
figure martyred figure. And the last time they acknowledge her, she
अरे
is
वाह, ये तो
acknowledged
full
in the
early
film.
2000s का हिंदी movie है.
It is. And
full early
the
2000s
last
का
time
हिंदी movie.
she is recognized by her dead name by Sena Gomez's character. So the last and then also it wraps up the thing nicely by after she dies, Zoe Saldana adopts her two sons, and so she's also gets to live her nice happy like single mother or
अरे
like
वो
whatever
सब तो अरे
heteronormative
वो
life.
सब तो neat wrap up होता ही रहता है movies में.
Yeah,
जो
but
भी,
the fact that
even if it doesn't make
the
sense.
last time this trans character who the film is named after is recognized as is by her dead name, by her wife or ex-wife, and then she proceeds to die extremely tragically in a absolutely absurd shootout that has absolutely no reason to be there at the end of such a film, is just painfully miserable, extremely harmful in my opinion, and just again, but why is essentially my my question when it comes. So I remember I finished it and I was like, this is the film that is being championed as, I mean, this when Amartya, you said early 2000s Hindi cinema. This is essentially what happened to gay cinema when gay cinema was having its sort of introduction, where people would make extremely paternalistic films and then pretend as if this is made by heterosexual people and pretend like this is what gay cinema is. Now we are very lucky that the Hollywood had a.
I'm going to like present an argument which might just sound like, again, me being a member of the Purush Pradhan committee, so par for the course at this point. But again,
go ahead.
Again, I say this with all respect to every queer filmmaker around everywhere.
Yes.
But it's not out of the blue that a heterosexual person can make a queer movie. It is really not out of the blue. They can make it. The reason why representation is becoming so important is because those queer filmmakers have a very specific voice which needs to be addressed and which needs to be brought out.
Yeah.
So that is why people are enthusiastically championing queer filmmakers to tell queer stories. And again, to all the haters, that doesn't mean that heterosexual filmmakers cannot make queer stories. But when heterosexual filmmakers try to make queer stories, the onus is on them to ensure that the research is above board and the research is sound. Because otherwise, heterosexual fandom are ruthless in judging queer art. So by that accord, queer fandom are going to be equally ruthless when judging movies like this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You have
absolutely.
to take it both ways. You have to take it both ways.
Yeah.
And
I have
ultimately,
always
at the
been
end of the day, yeah, okay. Ultimately,
no
at the end
no
of the day, the movie is also bad. So
I mean,
yeah.
I
that's
think
So
why
that's
the
it's a simpler thing in this film scenario. I think just because there's no, like, I would say, like, again, I think I messaged Chris saying that like, you watch a Pedro Almodovar movie which really sinks its teeth into something really uncomfortable like The Skin I Live In, and then it
yes,
becomes challenging, I think, to unpick what a filmmaker is trying to do and how effectively it's working. This is like that sort of, glossy sheen which sort of probably is popular at Cannes, and once it's out of that echo chamber it sort of gets absolutely exposed, like it's almost like someone, like, it was being protected by certain sort of jury members there or whatever, and then once it's sort of unleashed to the audiences, they are like, wait a second, really,
yes.
yeah,
really,
and it,
like,
it
yeah,
also exposes the echo chambery or the extremely paternalistic or whatever you want to call it nature of these juries. Like the
yes,
fact that this is being championed by the people who voted, or that the fact that this won a grand jury prize and everything. The fact is that this is what they want out of quote unquote trans cinema today, when
yeah,
trans filmmakers aren't being given the room to speak. And
mm,
that is a big problem,
yeah,
because when trans filmmakers are allowed the room to speak, are you going to be receptive to their honesty and their stories? That is the fear that comes with such a thing. Because
yeah.
for a, like, again, I have always, as we spoke earlier as well, I've always championed heterosexual cisgender filmmakers making queer films, because I don't think your identity has anything to do with whether you can tell a story well or not.
Yeah.
You have to have, like Amartya said, it's about your research and it's about your empathy. And I think
Mm,
this film fundamentally lacks both these things. I think,
mhm.
and it doesn't have any empathy. It has sympathy, or a very paternalistic sympathy towards the
I think
people that
it's
it is
more
talking
sympathetic
about.
towards Zoe Saldana's character, if anything.
It is. It
Yeah.
absolutely is.
Yeah.
So, and so it lacks a basic empathy. Like Jacques Audiard in an interview said, "I didn't do any research on Mexico because I thought I had no need to." That cannot be
Amazing,
the attitude that you bring when
amazing,
you're talking about
very
a
French.
marginalized
I think
people.
no, but I think you can take that attitude and then make a film which is sort of, very self-critical also in that
Mm.
view. Like, it's almost like commenting on its inability to actually capture Mexican culture at its sort of, authentic self. Like, a lot of French
No,
filmmakers
but that
like all
requires a
that
level of
self,
self-awareness.
metatextual and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I get, no, but I'm saying that requires a level of self-awareness which
Yeah.
is absent in the way that Audiard talks about
No,
this
there's
film.
no,
And it's
I
I
mean,
very
don't think
unless you
weird
want
to
to,
me. And it's
unless,
very weird to me. It's very
hmm,
weird to me also that you are setting a movie in Mexico and then saying that you don't need to do research on Mexico.
it's not
What
shot in
does that
Mexico also,
entail?
no?
Yeah, yeah. What does
No, I
that
don't think
entail
so,
then?
no.
Hmm.
What does that entail then? That entails that your knowledge of Mexico you felt is enough for you to shoot on Mexico. Where does your knowledge of Mexico then come from?
Hmm.
Watching the movie, it clearly comes from other movies or other media about Mexico, which is already skewed anyway.
Yeah. No, and it takes the most boilerplate template, what Mexico is,
Yes,
sort of
exactly.
thing, which I'm just like,
Like I
you can
understand you're
make it a
doing a
little
neo
bit more
noir musical. Like I
complicated,
understand you're doing the neo noir
Yeah.
musical. I understand that. I understand that you are going to have to delve into violence and some sort of stuff, and that can automatically be called as a template. But again, come on, you are a
Yeah.
filmmaker. You are already jumping, like you are literally deliberately jumping into these shark infested waters.
Yeah.
You are
Which is
jumping into that.
admirable, I think. But
Which
it's
is
just that when you jump into them, you better, no, like, you're jumping into, I know
when you're
Chris
jumping into
winted.
the
That's
shark
why I
infested
was,
waters, you better have protection around you.
no,
And by
no,
protection,
that, or like, you
yeah.
go in prepared, I think is the bigger thing, right? It's just
वही तो
the,
protection है ना. When you are a
yes,
diver,
Hmm.
you will want to have
yes,
protection
yeah,
everywhere, right?
yeah, yeah.
वही है.
So, so I mean, it's like, I think there are moments in the film where, like, it's the it like, it almost got a reaction out of me. I was like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, it's one of those which is automatically, I think, like, it's like, fascinating in a different sort of way, but like, it's so jarring when it shifts from sort of reality to musical every time. It's just like, there is literally no sort of way in which the film manages to sort of uh, weave together these different sort of tones and sensibilities, and it just feels like this really like hot mess. Like it's just like, and it doesn't have any time, it doesn't give any time for to its characters to like actually sort of feel real at all, real or whatever, like human. Let's just say remove the real tag, like it
हाँ
doesn't even
रियल
allow them
पार्ट
to feel
हटाओ,
human.
म्यूजिकल है वैसे भी एग्जैजरेटेड
Yeah.
होगा ही थोड़ा, बट
Exaggeration's fine, but
ह्यूमन
it doesn't allow them to feel like humans only. Like it feels like it like lurches from plot point to plot point. There is this one section, like it's the most baffling thing in the film I thought was you didn't show what Emilia Perez's life was after the surgery at all. Like there's no like attention given to her life after the surgery. It's like
that's
four
also the
years
choice
later.
of the protagonist. I think that's also the choice of the protagonist.
Yeah.
If your protagonist you're choosing is Zoe Saldana, and she's essentially like the quote unquote innocent bystander who is kidnapped and then told to be the lawyer in charge of ensuring all this process, and what that ultimately happens. Again, it's that quote unquote neo noir musical, you're pushing it into a neo noir template, which I understand. But again, if you're going to explore the entire ethos of neo noir, one of the primary ethos of neo noir is uncertainty.
Yeah.
What can be more uncertain than a person transitioning and finding their own identity? What can be more uncertain and what can be more fearful about that?
And there's like a
Explore
really
that.
half-ass sort of a romantic subplot they throw in. I actually thought
Oh
they
God.
had decent chemistry, but they barely got time to sort of, develop that relationship. That actress, I forgot her name, she was maybe like one of the better performances in the film. At least I felt so, but
Yeah, I think that
she
they
played.
had a nice scene when she was introduced. I thought that was like the one
Yeah.
part of the film I was like, okay, this is nice. And she has like a couple of good moments with Emilia, and it's the only time where Emilia gets to be herself outside of this sort of reclaim, like trying to be a better person and the whole Zoe
Yeah, because
Saldana
everything
shtick.
whatever we've discussed, I think also links like the transitioning from that Emilia Perez is going through is sort of linked also to Mexico's history. And it like again creates like this very strange binary where the male is associated with violence and the woman is associated with like, this NGO caring nature. I was like, really? Do you really want to do that? Like, I mean, in even if you're a musical with like, dealing in extremes, is that some conflict you really also just doesn't do anything with that conflict? It's just really wishy-washy with everything, and it just sort of
It
presents it.
feels like plot that hasn't been thought through
Yeah,
for its like thematic implications.
yeah.
And I was actually the film that this reminded me of the most, and it's I'm very sad that I have to make this comparison, is
Hmm.
a film called Boys Don't Cry. I don't know if you've seen it. It's
I've
by
not.
Kimberly
I've heard
Pierce,
of it.
and
Hmm.
it's probably one of the only big films, quote
That's
unquote,
with
transmasculine
Hilary
films that we
Swank,
have.
right? I think.
Yes. And
Yes.
it's a biopic-esque of this trans man by the name of Brandon Tina.
Hmm.
And the problem with that film is, so Kimberly Pierce, if and I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, is a lesbian. And she basically takes this attitude that trans men are essentially lesbians who aren't comfortable with the fact that they are women who are attracted to women. Therefore, they want to transition to being men so that they can love women in a heterosexual way. And the
Sure.
entire film is about how Brandon Tina essentially lies to herself and others and is a
Hmm.
deceiver in his identity as a man.
Hmm.
And I was like, this is what it feels like, because you are talking about a real life person who was a trans man, and you are making it this story where you essentially called him a deceiving lesbian,
Hmm.
and you don't you dishonor his extremely extremely harsh and
Hmm.
tragic life by
Hmm.
making this thematic comparison that I don't know if you realize that is what you're doing.
Hmm.
And that is what to me Emilia Perez does, and it's genuinely upsetting because it this much visibility for it. Like, I'm so happy that
Hmm.
Carla Sofia Gascon is getting so much recognition, because okay, she's the first trans woman to get nominated for the best actress at Cannes.
Hmm.
She's the first trans woman nominated at the Golden Globes. I'm extremely happy that she's getting
Hmm.
that, but I just wish it was for a story that has at least. I mean, I don't even mind
I
something
hate
like
to make
Love
this
Simon.
I hate to make
Yeah,
this
yeah.
comparison. I hate to make this comparison, and if any cinephile listening is going to now throw a pitchfork at me. But her nomination reminds me of, the first black woman to be nominated for a supporting acting Oscar for Gone with the Wind.
Really? Hmm. No, but I don't.
I got
Okay,
nominated, but at
I
what
don't know
cost?
if. Okay, I don't know if the film is. I don't know. I don't know if I can defend Emilia Perez on those levels. Also, to be very honest, I was saying that I don't think the film makes her a supporting character because I think her and Zoe Saldana are the two leads. Like Selena Gomez is very much a supporting character, but those two, I think it does. It tries to make both of them leads. It's just unconvincing in how it goes about exploring her character in general, I think, and it sort of fails on that fundamental character study level. It's named Emilia Perez, right? So I think it's sort of going for that, but it's sort of I almost thought if anything you could name, the more provocative thing would be to name, like, choose the previous name
Choose the dead
she
name.
had and then
Choose the
Emilia
dead
as
Yeah.
name.
one.
Yeah.
So that sort of at least is more representative of what conflict you're trying, like, it's as troubling as that conflict is, at least you're probing that. But yeah, it's just very, again, it's like too
It's
too
trying
much
to
of a
be quote unquote.
nothing.
It's trying to be quote unquote stunning and brave simply by making a movie,
हाँ वही.
simply by touching on those topics and
Absolutely.
thinking that the
Yeah.
plaudits will be coming. And the problem
Also, I
is
don't
that's
know.
exactly what is going on.
Also, I don't know if kinetic camera work equals, good choreography in your movie. Like, if the camera's, like whooshes into like the person and then swings
सर
left
हम
and
क्या
right, then I'm
बोले
like,
सर हम क्या बोले हम तो एक देश में बिलोंग करते हैं जहाँ पर लोग कोरियोग्राफी करना भी भूल चुके हैं तो हम भी क्या कर
हाँ,
सकते हैं
तो यहाँ पे भी कौन सा आता है सर? Like, it's not like, let's not give the French that much credit also. Like,
मैं कहाँ देता हूँ
no, I know you
मैं
don't give,
कहाँ
but
देता हूँ
let's we also not give that much credit to them.
Let's not
But
give them the credit of being uniquely bad.
yes, that's true.
yeah
Any other thoughts, Chris, on
we have that pedestal
Emilia
anyway
Perez?
like we are the industry filled with musicals and we are making more shit musicals every year so
Yeah,
that is quite
I
fair.
know where to transition from here. That's why I'm asking, Chris. Do you have any more
No,
thoughts?
no, I think Meri Bhadas, I have gotten at least most of it out in a
Okay.
hopefully civil manner. So I think we can
No, it
move
was
on
very
from here.
civil. It was
I
great, I
don't think
think.
I helped at all. I don't think I helped at all.
No, I thought Chris was very civil. Amartya, you are allowed to be mean. I think we've established that.
मेरा मीननेस
Uh,
तो स्टार्ट ही नहीं हुआ है अभी तक बट चलो होगा अब
So, we are moving to your choice only. Because we've been talking about a musical, I think I'm going to move to a film which has hints of a musical and sort of echoes of musical numbers, sprinkled throughout its narrative, which I think are better than the entire narrative itself. So, we move on to Amartya's pick, and I think a very unfortunately justified pick. It kind of breaks my heart also to agree that much with Amartya on two different points actually in this whole conversation. But yes, this is Blitz by Steve McQueen.
What is your name?
George.
So how the hell did you end up here?
This is Chris's first Steve McQueen movie, which I then told Chris that please don't be,
yeah
disheartened by this. You
please
watch
don't
his
think
other
that
work.
this is his filmography it is
Yes.
definitely not
Yeah.
I mean, good for me. It only goes up from here. So
Yeah. I think so.
I
Mostly.
re-ranked my Steve McQueen ka list for higher
Sure.
films. I re-ranked them by adding Blitz.
Yeah.
It took me 5 minutes
You
because
just
it got
add it
at
to the
the
bottom of the list.
yes
Okay.
yes.
Can you introduce Blitz to whoever's unfamiliar with it, Amartya?
Blitz is, if I am not mistaken, if I discount all of the Steve McQueen movies and if I discount the documentaries, the docu-series, and if I include all of the small axe films as one small axe stuff as one specific film, Blitz is, I think, his 9th or 10th film.
Sure.
McQueen's, that is. So Blitz is basically about a kid whose name is George, who is being sent to the countryside by his mother Rita, who is played by Saoirse Ronan, a wonderful actress. So he is being sent off to a specific location. He's being evacuated to a specific location in the countryside because this is World War II, like smack dab in the middle of World War II London. And during that time, the kids would be evacuated to the countryside as per the norm so that they could be safe from the war. But while he's traveling via train, he starts to miss his mom, and he starts to feel guilty about having a tiff with his mother and thinking that his mother doesn't love him because his mother is also a single mother. Whose husband had died, whose husband had been killed by.
Was it killed, or is it just a sense that he's not
not here? I think it is pretty
implied that he's killed. Okay.
Implied that he's killed,
Is he Jamaican, or is he?
He was a Jamaican. He was a person of Jamaican descent. Yes. So, and that is why George then jumps out from the train and
I think
makes a return trip back to London.
You're making the decision for him to jump sound a lot more convincing than the film does, because when he jumped from the train, I was like, "Are you serious?" Like, I'm like, "Are you going to make that decision?"
I am going to make it I'm going to make it convincing because George, at the end of the day, is a kid. Kid makes impulsive decision. That's not my problem about this.
Sure, fine.
Kids make impulsive decisions.
I don't like kids in any case, so I guess that sort of,
that's what kids actually do. So it's fine for me that kids are making impulsive decisions. And the fact that McQueen then uses that to basically, and I'm going to use all my SEO brain for this, McQueen then uses that to chart a quote-unquote odyssey, because right now that Greek epic is everywhere.
Oh, please do
chart
not
an odyssey
start.
back to London. Chart an odyssey back to London. Is admirable, except what we expect McQueen to do, he does the exact opposite thing. And that's what I don't think pissed me off, but that's what disappointed the hell out of me.
No,
because he's making essentially not even a propaganda film. He's essentially making we are English.
Do you think so? I think he's very critical.
Interiorly, we are extremely Interiorly, we might be extremely racist and we might be crass to each other. But we stand guard against the invaders with our stiff upper lips. And we are going to do everything in our power to ensure that the invaders go away. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Interesting. I didn't get that impression, though. I'll be very honest. I thought the film was very critical in general about Britain's racism in general. And I think
it is critical about Britain's racism, but it is also like extremely loving about the fact that Britain can stand guard. The English people love their neighbors, and
they can come together in times of crisis.
They are going to come together in times of adversity.
I mean, it's very moralizing. Like, I think it has characters which sort of tell you what you should do in like this situation.
और बीच में अचानक से एक Charles Dickens वाला scene आ
जाता है. That was awful. But
yes.
Anyway, no. I compared this to My Name Is Khan ka second half. Like, I've consistently complained about My Name Is Khan and me not sort of gelling.
I am extremely disappointed that I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, but I think it's genuinely, it's like, but I mean, key differences. I think Steve McQueen roots, like, it feels like his world is rooted, like there's a tactility to his world. The people within them are caricatures. That's the problem. But their world itself, unlike My Name Is Khan, which I think is like a theme pub of like, America, the second half in this, I think, the whole film actually feels like it has a sense of place, but it doesn't have any characters to latch on.
I'll tell you what it is. It's like you are watching a PNB movie. It's like you are thinking of going to start a Powell and Pressburger movie.
Yes.
Because
Powell and Pressburger, for whoever's not familiar, great English filmmakers from the 1940s and 50s. They made a lot of films during the war effort, which were very subversive, even when they were funded and like, approved by the establishment, they sort of, found a way to sort of
because
puncture
when you
in
start
nationalism.
a PNP movie, you would think, like
Yeah.
Colonel Blimp and all those movies, you would think that they are like glorifying the war effort, they're glorifying the propaganda,
Yeah.
they're like rallying, instructing the people to rally for the war. Our country is at hand, our country needs to address. I'm like, fine, okay, good. And there are segments here where that feels like that also, right? Saoirse Ronan's character preparing herself to conduct a song for
I
the
like that
radio.
scene. I think that was one of the
Those
more
scenes are nice.
effective scenes.
On a
Yeah.
vacuum, those scenes are
Yeah.
those scenes are nice because
Yeah.
they're recreating a period piece with the budget that is being assimilated to McQueen, and you
Yeah.
don't see those scenes a lot.
Yes.
My problem is I expect, and this is not, and before people come at me by saying that you shouldn't be expecting anything from a movie, I should be expecting something from a filmmaker like McQueen, right?
Yes.
Because he's being so critical about race in everything in his filmography.
Yeah.
Then suddenly he becomes like such a, it almost becomes like a love fest.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
Wo kya raha hai,
softies
right?
sort of, like it's like I think a lot of people who liked the film actually compared it to like a classic sort of, old-fashioned melodrama. Like, ones which were sort of made in Britain during like this.
But it doesn't work. It
I don't
doesn't
think it
work
works,
because
but
because there are segments in this movie where there are moments like George's relationship with a
There's
guard.
only one relationship I bought of George's, which is with I forgot his name. He's the Nigerian, I think.
He's the Nigerian
guy,
guard.
Ife.
Ife, yes.
Like that relationship and how Ife describes and what Ife goes through.
Yeah.
That is in sharp contrast at times to the sudden dream sequences that George sees while he goes inside through the cave tunnel, and then he sees all the dead people, all the ghosts of the dead people listening to a song. I'm like,
Yeah.
ये क्या है? Like,
I
ये
actually-
क्या whiplash है?
Yeah,
ये क्या
I-
tonal
Yeah,
whiplash?
and also comparing it especially to that scene where like the station gets flooded with water also, and it's like
Yes.
the
That
whiplash
felt
from
like a
like
Dunkirk
scene to
scene, like an
scene to
outtake from
scene.
Dunkirk.
Cool. Also, there is another sequence which is like gorgeous in its technicality, but complete.
I thought the opening was
tonal
really
whiplash.
gorgeous also. Like, and it had like
Yeah.
that really, like it has the, like detail of that hand pump essentially at that, no hand
Yeah,
pump,
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
the thing, they're using a hose, I think, at that point.
It's a hose pipe, yeah,
Yes,
the hose
yes.
pipe.
And
yeah.
then that sort of loses control itself and it sort of becomes
That reminded me so much of Hunger.
Yep. That's his first feature
His
film.
first film, yeah.
Yeah,
That visceral nature of the violence
yeah.
and what is going on, like from
Yeah.
the monotony and everything, that visceral nature of the violence is insane to me. But
Yeah.
again, it's like you remember that sequence in the huge hall in which there is a drone camera which is focusing on the jazz number and jazz musical, and then going
That's my
through
favorite
the-
sequence in the film, I think.
in the entire concert, and then the blitz happens.
It sort
it's
of
blasted.
pauses and then the blitz happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic scene, and then it is immediately undercut by all those Charles Dickens
Yes.
caricature people coming inside, and
Yes.
then it becomes like a fucking cartoon.
Playing
And I'm like,
around
"Ye
with
kya hai?"
those dead bodies and all that.
Yeah.
So
nonsense.
that's what I thought. Like I thought what he wanted to do was actually, and he's done. I've still not seen Occupied City, which is his project before this, which is essentially, I feel it's like the opposite end of Blitz. Occupied City is almost like approaching art installation territory. It's like a 4-hour, 22-minute thing where he's essentially going to modern day Amsterdam and then detailing and talking about the
Splicing
Holocaust.
in footage about
Yeah,
splicing
no,
in
there's no
about
footage.
the-
There's just narration about what happened in these
Oh,
locations,
nice.
about the Holocaust. So it's like almost evoking that within the present. And that
Hmm.
sequence in Blitz, where the dance number happens and then it sort of cuts and then
It's
it's
a
like the Blitz
gorgeous
happens.
dance sequence. Like the
Yeah.
jazz
Oh, it's
sequence is
beautiful.
insanely good.
And I was like,
Which
this
is why-
it's like the film comes to life almost. And I'm just like,
Yes.
just stay on this. But then we have to go through that journey, like with the child. And I have to say, I know that people sort of, I don't know if McQueen can do Spielbergian magic. Like, I know
You
it's
can't do Amblin. This is
Yeah,
very
like-
Amblin-esque.
because there's and I think some of the child performances are very iffy, like especially on the train and like when they have to establish the relationship between the children and they have to go and it happens so quickly. I was like, when the tragedy strikes post that, I was like, what? Like, I thought there was more to this. Like,
I
why are
liked the
we...
tragedy because of the shock value. That was the one time
Sure.
I'm like, wow, this is approaching PNP territory.
Okay.
That was the one time I'm thinking, oh, this is approaching PNP territory, the
Sure.
subversion.
Sure.
But then again, then I still see that, you know, almost loving look
Yeah.
towards the towards British, which
Yeah.
by the way, just to clarify, ठीक है, loving look towards the British comes very hard for us. ठीक है, वो
Yes.
आता नहीं है अंदर से.
Very true.
Yes.
I'm sorry, वो नहीं आता है अंदर से, कुछ नहीं कर
Yeah.
सकते उसके
And I
लिए.
think
But
one of the people, I mean, Mike McCahill, who's been on our podcast before, really likes the film. So I would be curious to know what all he likes. But he compared it to a Terence Davies film, which Terence Davies is my, eternal, essentially, love, I suppose. But, it
I think
feels
that
like...
self-critical nature that McQueen has towards his
Yeah.
country while also becoming a love letter to the country. I
Yeah.
think that's what this movie ultimately boils down to be,
Yes.
right? It's
Yeah.
both
I
self-critical.
just think the human drama is not convincing. I think
Yeah.
that's the big issue, I think.
No,
Harris
that's what I said,
Dickinson, what
no.
is he doing in this movie, by the way? What is Harris
I
Dickinson
was-
doing?
Oh yeah, he's just there.
What is he doing in this? Why is he in
No,
this?
that's what I was saying. No,
Steve
because
McQueen.
I've heard about Steve McQueen plenty, but
Yeah.
I watched it. I'm like, I said in the group, I think this is a deeply meh
Meh.
film.
Yeah.
That is the only reaction I had at the end of it, and
Yeah.
I was like, especially because I was like, this is
And
one of the most. No,
And because
go ahead.
Dhruv is saying like he's not good with human drama in this, or he's not good with kids.
Hmm.
I will invite anybody. Watch Lovers Rock.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Watch
His small acts work in
Small Axe
general,
Education.
most of it.
Watch Small Axe Education. He's dealing with kids in that
Yeah.
movie throughout. Watch that movie. He's so good with kids.
Yeah. And even just general
He's
actors
not
like
good in making saccharine,
yeah.
quote unquote, somewhat propagandist love letter movies.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah, it feels
Spielberg
like
नहीं बन
his
सकते भाई.
sensibility is hamstrung by that,
Yes.
over because there's actually really memorable images actually now that I think, like the opening
Yeah,
of
there are.
that the flight sort of beaming
Oh, yeah.
across the water,
Or
like,
even
and then the water
that
converting
sequences in the
into...
second half. Yeah, or
Yeah.
even that sequence in the third act in which one of the bombs fall into the jetty and the entire bridge is being destroyed while
Yes.
George is like running from one end to the
Yes.
next.
I
Another
think it's a
gorgeous.
longish take. I think that is.
Yeah, it's
But
fantastic
yeah, like
sequence. But again,
so I think this is the most we'll be on the sort of almost we desperately are wanting to like this film, I think.
Yeah.
And there are like elements in it, I think, and then there's like the rest of it, which I think is a slog, to sit through. I think a fair
it's
bit.
very fascinating to me that every time McQueen tries to do something which is heavily genre specific, McQueen fails.
Oh, you don't like Widows. I like Widows a lot.
I don't like Widows
Yeah,
at all.
I love
I
Widows.
think that is
So-
another movie which I think fails miserably at what it is
Yeah,
trying
so
to do.
no, so I think that's why I thought I'd like Blitz more, because I connected with Widows a fair bit, because I was like, this is also slightly more melodrama genre, like it's committed to that. But I thought the melodrama here was very weak. Like I just genuinely thought there was barely any build up to the mother and son separation. I was like, where's the anguish where that has to come across when they're
वो नहीं होगा ना सर, वो नहीं होगा ना सर. Britain, stiff upper lip, baby. We are going to do that.
But that stiffness can be very, it can be representative of what is repressed. Like
Yes.
the silences themselves can communicate. Anyways,
which
didn't work.
could work if the mother and son relationship
I like
was
Saoirse
given
Ronan.
more room to breathe.
Yeah.
She's really good. She's
Yeah.
good. She's good in this, but she's good in everything.
That's also true.
True.
Yeah.
I think she does better than what she's given, honestly.
Hmm.
I
She's
thought
given
she
very
had
little
very
here.
little to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
Hmm.
she's given very little. Anyways, talking about giving,
Very sad, very disappointing. Honestly, this is one of the more disappointing ones. for
this
me.
is like this is what gives the the title the biggest disappointments of 24, like that actually perfectly applies here. It probably applies even more to the next pick, which we are moving on to, which I think is going to get a lamb blasting from all three of us collectively. And I am shocked that this thing has come out of a filmmaker who I consider one of my favorites of this generation.
The fact, I think Dhruv was more sad that he had to agree with me on this.
Yeah, I was extremely. I watched it much later. I had to write a review, and I was like, I delayed it a fair bit. Amartya told me it's not good at all. I was like, there is no way Alfonso Cuarón, the great Alfonso Cuarón, who's made Children
Can
of
make
Men,
a
Ye
bad
Tu Mama
thing.
Tambien.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's not about can make a bad thing. Can make something that is, I consider
So bad.
like one of the
Terrible.
worst things I've seen this year. So,
Yes.
I don't expect the filmmakers who I'm disappointed by to make something like that, especially with the people also within that,
Associated with
project.
him, yes.
There's Kate
Yes.
Blanchett, and you've got Leslie Manville, of course, but like Emmanuel Lubezki, Bruno
Bruno Delbonnel.
Bruno Delbonnel, and then it's a baffling
Again,
misfire.
credit to them. Credit to them. The movie looks gorgeous, especially
Yes,
in two
actually, yeah.
episodes. Those two
Cinematography
episodes
wise,
are
actually, yeah.
yeah.
Cinematography wise, I think that's the sort of that's the only reason I think you can sit through the series, though I would say that you shouldn't sit through the series. Anyways,
And in my commitment to the bit, I binged the whole thing in one day.
that is
so
your
that I
fault because
could-
we
That
warned
is
you against
entirely your fault.
Yes.
You got warned by
No
the both of
sympathies
us.
for
When you
that
get
you will
warned by
get.
the both of us,
Yes.
that is a red flag.
I'm not asking for sympathies. I'm just making clear that I'm extremely committed to the bit.
Yes, you were extremely committed to the bit. So Alfonso Cuarón's disclaimer on Apple TV Plus. So there's two Apple TV Plus things we were actually bashing because one of them was Blitz.
Blitz.
And well, we didn't bash Blitz. We were, disappointed.
We were very
about it.
disappointed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Disclaimer is Apple TV Plus giving Alfonso Cuarón free reign to do anything he wants in the television.
I would also like to remind Dhruv that I knew about this project for at least 2 years because this was like in my most anticipated TV in 2022. Like
Wow.
that was when it was announced.
Yeah, and I think it went through a fair amount of production delays and everything. I think I
Yes.
was reading a bit like Cuarón. Firstly, it was the COVID stuff. I think it was in the process of being made since then. And I think one thing that he repeatedly has said and which will repeatedly come back is that he's never felt comfortable in he's never made TV before. He's a film guy, sort of like that. And this is
I hate
his
to say this, but
attempt.
it shows.
Yes, precisely. Anyways, this is my intro is two-time Academy Award-winning director combines with umpteenth time nominated Academy Award-winning actress to make a series about female empowerment whose ultimate message boils down to womanhood equals motherhood. Is that right?
My description was Alfonso Cuarón makes a Kanika Dhillon film.
The world needs to know the truth.
Yikes.
Well, it's not a film though. It's a series. It's
show,
a
makes
7-episode,
I
45
don't
minutes
want the
each.
I don't want
No,
a
he
Kanika
takes
Dhillon
and-
series if that makes any sense.
He
I do
takes a
not want
Kanika
the
Dhillon film plot and turns it into a 7-episode miniseries.
With
That is even worse.
pretensions above sort of, with I know you like this movie, but I will say it with eyes wide shut level of pretensions.
Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut में से भी बदतर है. ये
No, I know
Eyes Wide
that.
Shut से
I
भी
like
बदतर
Eyes
है.
Wide Shut much more than this. I think this has many
Even I do.
problems.
Even
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, you don't like, yeah. Anyways, I think
I'm just vigorously shaking my head for those who, since you cannot see me.
but you can say no. I mean, anyways, no. I'm being facetious about the Eyes Wide Shut comparison. The only reason I'm mentioning that is because
Wait,
of
you made it. You gave it 1.5.
I
You were with
decreased
me
it.
with.
I decreased it.
Yikes.
Yeah. Anyways, the series actually is about
Beware of narrative and form. Their power can bring us closer to the truth. But because of our own deeply held beliefs and the judgments that we make, they can also be a weapon with a great power to manipulate. Ladies and gentlemen, be aware
in this story, it specifically applies to acclaimed journalist Catherine Ravenscroft. What a surname! Played by Kate Blanchett.
She sounds like a
Uh,
Spider-Man villain. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
she does. It's a very
She does.
funky, yeah. Who's built her reputation revealing the misdeeds and transgressions of others, receiving a novel from an unknown author in which she's the main character in a story that exposes her darkest secrets that will destroy her personal and professional life. The series is Amartya. You can start first, I suppose. I think I'll be
You know,
very rude to this. So yeah,
you know what the problem is? You know what the problem is? This
there's
movie,
many.
this show would have been perfect as an erotic thriller of the 90s. Perfect.
Like a
You cast
90-minute.
Sharon Stone. Yeah, 90 minutes you cast Sharon Stone in this,
Yeah.
or anybody in this who makes all this sort of stuff. You ask Paul Verhoeven or any of those other directors of the reel to direct it.
Yeah.
Full garish lighting, giallo level primary colors lighting, perfect.
Yeah.
Do you know why? क्योंकि वो prestige नहीं है, and which is the bigger problem here.
Yes.
To all filmmakers and especially to all streamers, prestige TV is dead.
I mean, some
All
of
of
the
you,
HBO stuff is nice,
dead.
no?
They are not prestige anymore.
I like what does Sharp Objects count as prestige? I like Sharp Objects quite a bit. You know,
That
like
was 4 years ago.
I'm just listen. I'm just trying my best to put forth a different sort of argument here. 'Cause I do-
Nowadays का prestige TV is heavy genre specific.
Okay.
Like
Oh, you
Penguin.
watched that Sugar thing, no? Which was garbage. You and
Oh, yes.
the
Yes.
Colin Farrell is a spoilers alien. You know?
Colin Farrell is a detective who felt like a noir detective, except episode 6 पे suddenly it is revealed that he's an alien. Both Varun and I were like, eh? ये
And
क्या
it's getting
है?
a second season, so look forward to that. Anyways, yeah, you were saying.
No, but to disclaimer. Prestige TV is dead. And the point about Prestige TV has always been कि taking the complexity of human emotion
Yeah.
and giving them a sheen, a complete and utter budget makeover,
Yeah.
casting well-known film actors,
Yeah.
asking well-known film directors to dedicate their entire energy and everything into long-form content. That was Prestige TV. That died a very ignominious death a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because there is a very specific form of problem with Prestige TV that is called prestige bloat.
Yes.
This is becoming very technical, I'm sorry, but this is what happens when your entire profession is watching movies
Well,
and television
to be
for
fair,
24 hours.
Amartya, the film relies a lot on technique. I think the technique
Yeah,
and
so
the formal stuff
description- so
actually is a bit of a
description-
problem.
Yeah, so description on technicalities is necessary here.
Yeah.
But prestige bloat is something where you are going to introduce dream sequences or black and white monochromatic images.
So you're just going to see
or-
Bardo or Beau is Afraid.
or
you know, your two
Bardo level
favorite.
of imagery, by Bardo I mean Bardo, the movie by Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, which is another dog pile of a movie, but again doesn't matter. Point being, you are using all these flourishes, you are using the talents of so many gifted cinematographers and editors to hammer home the theme which could be explained in 20 minutes in a movie.
Explained in the last episode of the show. Without
Which is
actually having
explained
to
in the
go
last
through
episode
all
of a
the...
show. Which is, yeah. Because
Nonsense.
the entire point and the entire thing about prestige bloat is by the time you reach the point, you always feel like, oh, this was it. Why did you take so much time to get to it?
Yeah.
I genuinely
is
think you could summarize it in a single line, and I have single dialogue, and I've written that dialogue down. Like
Do
that is how
Go for it.
It is the conversation between Sacha Baron Cohen and Kate Blanchett after they find out that their son is fine.
7th
She says
episode ka
one
last.
line.
Yes.
Last May, it's a longish quote, but I'm just going to say it. She says, "You're managing the idea of me having been violated by someone far more easily than the idea of that someone bringing me pleasure. You know, it's almost like you're relieved that I was raped." This entire quote can essentially summarize all 7 episodes, and I have no idea why it took you 7 episodes to get there.
Also one of the bigger problem, I do think that one of the bigger problem, and I think Dhruv is going to agree with me entirely on this.
I'm in entire
The entire
agreement
structure
Amartya,
of
on
this
this.
movie.
Yes. Yeah.
The entire structure of this show. ये वॉइस ओवर कहाँ से आया बे?
The voiceover is one of the most distracting voiceover can be a very, very good tool.
It can be
The-
100%.
The way in which Quran has used it here is one of the most distracting uses of it I've seen it in a long while. And I think it's doubly shocking for me that this is coming from him because of how expertly he's used it in Yitu Mama Tambian. He uses it so well in that film just to contrast what the action is taking place and what the reality of the situation otherwise is.
But यहाँ पर तो
Here,
contrast है नहीं ना.
here it's dumbing down
Here-
every emotion.
Dumping down everything, yeah.
It's like तुम बच्चों को ये समझ में नहीं आएगा, मैं दिखा रहा हूँ, this is what I am trying to show you, and I'm
And
like,
you have-
हमें दिख
By that
रहा है
logic,
सब.
by that logic, I can extrapolate that कि बच्चे लोग distracted हो जाएंगे episode 3 और episode 4
God.
में मस्त
Okay, yeah,
camera work से, इसलिए मैं थोड़ा emotion dump कर देता हूँ.
I'm
क्योंकि
sorry,
बच्चे
the
लोग
camera work every time Sacha Baron Cohen is on screen genuinely made me want to throw up.
Yeah, because it is very zoomy and all that in that situation.
it
I
is
think,
very
when he's-
handled.
For no
It is very
good
handled, yeah.
reason.
Yeah, I didn't understand that also.
No, I
Anyway,
understand. I understand the reason. I think the
Okay.
reason was कि he's focusing so much to claustrophobia थोड़ा हो रहा है,
Okay.
and he's inviting the viewers to get inside the head of a person so
Sure.
conflicted. The problem is
So,
voice over क्यों डाल रहा है उसके बीच
no,
में?
so Amartya, I think it's fascinating to me. So, he's used all these different tools, right? Essentially, voiceover
Yeah.
dal diya, camera work, expressive hai, etc., etc. I'm like, fine. Sacha Baron Cohen hai screen pe, you can use all that. He maybe needs it. I'm not a Sacha Baron Cohen fan, so okay, fine. Enhance his emotions with your camera techniques. Do not do that with Kate Blanchett and Leslie Manville. You do not need to do that. Please don't do that. Those are very accomplished actresses. You don't need to butcher their performances. I think Kevin
You
Kline
don't need
is
to
also
do that with Kevin Kline either.
yeah,
by the
yeah.
way.
He
Kevin Kline is
seems
also a
like
very
an
good actor.
absolute clown at times in the way he like pantomimes a lot in this. Like he's doing like almost like a caricaturish villain. And I'm just like, what are you doing?
For me, honestly, that did not work at all. I thought that was
Yeah.
that is easily my least. Because again, the problem is like what Amartya is saying is the prestige part. Like you are showing this genuine horror and desperation that Kate Blanchett's character is going through, and then you cut to this like comic book cartoon. Like I'm reminded of like I don't know, like Joker in the era where you couldn't show the gore, so he became like a trickster, and I'm like,
Yep.
you can't. The tonal dissonance is just like I can't buy into it at all.
He
I'm
did
just
pull off
surprised.
that cardigan though. He did pull off that cardigan
Yeah,
very
true.
well.
I'm surprised that the film didn't just go and do a maternal sort of battle. Like I would at least that has like that pulpiness and like pulp juice to it also. But in this, it's just like
Boy, na, what is the fear factor of what is this fear of not indulging into pulp in a material which is so clearly pulp?
I think it's like the stretch. It's like
And if it is
stretched
not
beyond-
pulp, which by the way, if it is not pulp, which is by the way, the thematic implication of it is not pulp.
Yes.
Then what's the point, Quaron, of
No.
luxuriating so much of all
Yes.
the sexual dalliances and
Yes.
everything else? What's the
I
point
think-
then?
I think that is the biggest issue for me, and that's why the reason why I sort of you said, oh, you gave it 1 point. The reason why I've sort of become more and more annoyed by the show is because the amount of time Quran spends on indulging in those sort of narratives which he says we are tricked by to manipulate us. I'm like, you could have spent almost half the time on Kate Blanchett's character. She
Yes, exactly.
literally is a bystander for the longest time in the show.
She's a bystander for 5 episodes. It is in the
Yes.
6th episode where she finally becomes the main character.
Yeah.
We do not need someone to say you are so getting cancelled and posting a video of your
This is your personal
Jesus
trauma, which
Christ.
Amartya and me warned you about. Episode 5, which is Alfonso
on
Cuarón does Black
Twitter.
Mirror.
Yes.
You don't need to do that in order to tell us you're talking about narratives and people's subjective perspectives of them. Like I'm sorry, and then Catfish.
The only good thing about this show, number one, Bruno Del Bonel and Emmanuel
Manuel
Levitsky.
Lubitsky.
The visuals are extraordinary in how he shoots Italy,
I
especially
think that's
in
more
this
Lubezki. The Italy
more
sections
Lubezki.
definitely feel like it's Lubezki because of the
Mm,
floaty camera work, which sort of,
yeah,
it
because of the
go.
photo.
Yeah.
And if people are fan of Cuaron's, love towards the body, towards
You can be
sexuality,
crude about
towards
this,
how he's. I'm not going to be crude about this because Cuaron wasn't. Cuaron was so
I
loving
think,
about this.
I think I mean, he's trying to, because see, the
Sir,
thing
वो
is,
crude नहीं है. Sir, वो crude नहीं
no, no,
है.
it's
See,
नहीं
tastefully
है.
done. No, I know.
Gaspar knows handling of sexuality in love. Like there are 2 or 3
Yeah,
sequences
that's
in that movie.
pornographic, right?
Yeah, no, pornography could learn from Gaspar Noé in how to shoot sequences
Okay,
like that.
fine. Okay.
Okay, yeah, but यहाँ पे it's almost like Itu Mama Tambien में भी इतना ही around masterful sequences था वहाँ पे in Itu Mama Tambien.
Yeah, but it
Perhaps
wasn't like
इतना open नहीं था, इतना
yeah, but
salacious नहीं था. यहाँ
But
पे
I
तो
guess the
मतलब it's
salaciousness here is part of, the allure. It's like, you have to be allured by it, you have to be deceived by it. But I'm
Hmm.
like, why are you committing that much time to that? Like, you can
But
just.
he committed so much to the bit that he essentially made the 2 best episodes of that show वही और
That's what I was
बाकी
saying.
कुछ है
Like,
ही
if you
नहीं.
recall the main recall value of the show is the sex scenes, it's a
Yeah.
problem for this
Yeah, it's a
show.
massive problem.
Especially on the when you talk about the conclusion of the film being that is essentially not what happened.
That is essentially not what
Exactly.
happened.
I'm like,
No, and I think
big
there's
issue.
also like a big structural problem for me because the actual incident is so
Yes.
short and essentially it's if you look at it, it's essentially like less than 24 hours. It's the evening that the two of them first see each other to the incident that happens and then the morning in which he dies.
Yes.
That's less than a 24-hour period.
Yes.
But it is goddamn stretched for 7 episodes
Yes.
and only rectified or only clarified in the 6th and the 7th episode that
The
you're like,
thing is, if you're
your
going to make
twist
an
is
entire
so
day
cheap.
thriller, if you're going to make a thriller for an entire day, a psychological thriller of an entire day in which a woman starts to lose her mind when she realizes that everything around her is falling apart, you need tension.
Yes.
टेंशन का है मूवी में, मतलब शो में टेंशन का है.
I think it's the issue with sort of, like this is what I said, like sometimes TV gives you too much room to indulge in the, like he tries to go make this thing like a detailed character piece for like a
But
lot
वो
of people. Like,
But
Sacha
that's
Baron
also the problem, na
Cohen
Dhruv.
and
Yeah, but that's also the problem, na Dhruv.
no, I know,
People
yeah.
think that TV means essentially a 4 hour to a 6 hour long movie. That's not what TV is.
Yeah.
That is really not what TV is. TV is a balancing act of overarching content along with episodic content. That's
Sure.
all. That's what TV has always been. I'm sorry to all the film lovers and all the cinephiles who don't like television because they think it is not cinematic enough.
Yeah.
That's what TV has always been. The best television series have always been that. With budget and without budget. Character exploration happens within those episodic content as well as overarching content.
Yeah.
Television doesn't mean कि 6 घंटे मिल गया मतलब 6 घंटे से एक सिनेमा बनाओ. मुझे नहीं देखना कैप्टन अमेरिका फैल्कन और विंटर सोल्जर 6 घंटे से क्या कर रहे हैं, मुझे नहीं देखना. Similarly, मुझे नहीं देखना Cuarón का फिल्म मेकिंग स्टाइल for 6 hours. Believe me, he's a fantastic filmmaker, but I am really not interested.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think it's also just like I think the basic thing is you can tell the story in much less of a time and with a much. You have Kate Blanchett with you. She can carry a film or a show as if you give her that part like to play throughout the series. I'm just like, you've essentially sidelined her for so much, and because the show sidelines her so much, I was like 100% by the third episode. I was like, this is gonna have a 180 at one point, right? Like it's 100% going to. She's not spoken at
the
all.
ending was the ending was so obvious to me by the second it was I kind of knew it by the first. By the second I was like, I know exactly where this is going. And the more that it progresses on, the fact that
I actually took a note. I'm like, please don't do a 180. Please don't do a 180. Please don't do a 180.
I was like, he either sort of commits to it which
Yes.
it was obviously not going to do.
Hmm.
Or the opposite is extremely obvious. What is the opposite of this? Especially by the sort of sixth episode when they show that, oh, she let him die. I'm like, this is
Yes.
not going anywhere else. And
Yeah.
I was like, it just feels cheap and exploitative at that point that
Yeah.
you have dragged this on for 6 episodes
Yeah.
and essentially not done anything to establish a level of empathy. Like it feels. I remember I was watching, and
How
again,
is it tricking the
way
audience
that-
when you literally, like, you know, you need to make it
And the
convincing. You need to
voiceover
make
doesn't
it
help.
trickery
Na?
convincing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the voiceover also doesn't help. The
Yep.
voiceover is spelling everything out.
Yep.
Credit to Indira Verma. I'm sure she got a healthy paycheck. You know, appearing for every episode.
Why
She's
is the
like a
narration
regular.
second person? I didn't even get that. I'm like, what are you trying? Are you
She's reading a
distancing
novel.
us even more?
She's reading the novel. It's the
Okay.
novel speaking to you.
No,
It's the
again,
novel
and
speaking
second
to you.
person is often associated with sort of cheaper material. I mean, it's what like fan fiction and all is written
It's
in.
Sure.
pulp.
So
Yeah,
that
it's
is
pulp.
what adds to that. And that's what I'm saying. If your material is inherently so damn pulpy, why can't you commit? You're not committing to a prestige, to that
You're
sort of
Alfonso
prestige of
Cuarón.
it.
You're Alfonso Cuarón. Why are you worried about anything? Commit to the
He
pulp. What's
wasn't
the
worried
point?
about anything. That's why we got disclaimer.
Yes. Commit to the pulp. You did Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, for crying out loud.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just so, like, I think this is definitely the most baffling misfire for me of the year. I'm just like, it's because I think I respond to his films otherwise so much that I'm just like, really, you made this? Like, you know, I was genuinely a bit heartbroken when it ended. And the more, and I think the issue is when the reveals happens, it's worse on the female character. Like, whatever complexity she has sort of gets
yeah.
thrown down the drain. I'm like,
And
then what's the
also
point?
I'm like the whole thing of the way it's set up with that son as well. I was like, the least you can do is give some sort of like this
And
thing
also,
to it.
the fact is, I can understand if the material is bad. ठीक है? I can understand if the material overall is bad.
Yeah.
Faithfulness का ठेका तो किसी ने नहीं दिया.
Exactly.
नहीं लेके रखा
Yeah. He the least of all, because
all
if
the
you see
people,
Children
him.
of Men, he's barely
Yeah.
he took the bare bones of the novel and then made his own thing. You know, it's like
Yeah.
he
Like,
clearly knows his way
I
around
was
this.
reading the reviews of the book on Goodreads, and it's absolutely, like I said, it's Kanika Delon tier material.
Sure.
And I'm like, again, you are Alfonso
I'm
Cuarón
not
is
a
taking
fan
this.
of
Again,
Kanika Dillon. ठीक है? I'm not a fan of Kanika Dillon. Anybody
Look,
who knows
I am
me
not
knows
either.
this
I
very well.
have
ठीक है?
I have enjoyed some of her films. I thought
I'm
keep
the
calling it
biggest.
Dopatti.
I'm the biggest
Dopatti.
champion of Fir Fir Hai Yasin Dillu. I'm the biggest champion. I think that is a strength. But
No, I'm telling you, Dopatti was genuinely one of the most miserable things I saw this year. Like, I'm not
I
a fan
agree.
of Kanika Delon.
You should.
I
That
agree.
means a
I got
lot
a
coming
screener
from
for
Chris,
that
by the
movie.
way. He watches a lot of
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
So yes.
So I'm like, this is you are Alfonso bloody Cuarón, okay? You can do something with this. Either don't make it at all or do something with it. What is this bloody
Like you are
half-assed
not.
nonsense?
Like you are not, and I'm not going, and I'm not trying to be insulting to fans of this director, but you are not as narcissistic as Alejandro González Iñárritu was when he did Bardo. You are not.
Yeah, he's never been. I mean, he's
have
actually.
never been
he's,
that.
I think he's been the opposite of that, actually. If you see Yitu Mamatamian and Roma, he's clearly trying to work through a lot of his personal guilt and personal sort
So
of.
all of this, all of
yeah.
what you did here is basically artistic liberty. To which
I
do
think
ask,
so. It's that.
but
only.
why? To which I do ask, but why?
I mean, because he had the artistic liberty, because he had the support. Like, then why would you not? Like, you know, it's basically like that.
Times like this are when I really
You need
believe
a
that the
studio head,
studios
right?
at times, you
Yeah.
really need a studio head who
No, but
understands
again,
when to stop.
no, I'm sorry. For me, that final episode and the way that the entire that sequence works out is just so baffling on so many levels to me. Like, again,
What
you are
sequence?
saying
Sorry, is that the one where they're sitting?
the sexual assault sequence.
Oh yeah.
the sequence-
The recalling of the whole thing, essentially.
The whole recalling of the whole thing
Essential
that narrates
revealing,
that sequence.
recontextualization of
Yeah.
that
Uh-huh.
entire sequence.
It's a trick game.
Because
It's a
again, if
proper,
you're-
like, we got to you. Like, it's executed like a way where it's like हम लोगों ने आपको trick कर
Gotcha.
दिया. हमें
but
prize दो. I'm
the
like,
thing is-
card भैया prize तुम्हारा.
there is no value to that reveal if
Nope.
you have not seeded it in some way. Like, you are saying, oh, you should not believe the narrative. So the idea essentially that what this father and mother thought their son was, he is not that way. But like thoda sa to wo kaisa tha, why did he,
Yeah.
like men are capable of sexual violence, but I'm not buying, okay, koi bhi man can be.
I also
I'm
think the
sorry,
problem
I'm not.
no, I also think the problem is ki you are focusing so much on a singular perspective for the entire 6 episodes, and then you're front loading the different perspective in an hour.
Yes.
क्यों भाई?
उल्टा करो
क्यों
ना,
भाई?
especially if you're going to
उल्टा
go
करो.
go उल्टा करो or split it. That is the, if you're going to do
3 episode में 3 episode do this, 3 episode do that. Yeah, 4 episode do
that.
this,
need
2
to
episode do
have,
that.
yeah, you need to have two conflicting POVs going simultaneously. That is when we are tricked, not when
Or
one of them
even
sort of
if-
is,
Or
you know.
even if you're doing the one thing, you have to seed in doubts, like,
Yes.
okay, this seems too idyllic, or this, I don't
Again,
know if this
it's-
actually happened that way.
Yeah.
But it's committed to that.
It's what me and Dhruv talked about in Andrew Dominic's lovely movie Blonde. Ki
Oh, we are back
sometimes-
to that.
yes, sometimes flashes are necessary instead of like showing everything in detail. कभी कभी flashes जरूरी है.
Yes.
कभी कभी seeding of flashes of the reality is much more better. Kaleidoscopic images works much better.
Again, all this I think should. Why has Alfonso?
But why are we
Cuarón not
talking about
thought
this about
this?
Alfonso Cuarón? That's
Exactly.
my bigger issue.
That is the I guess baffling thing for me. It's like it's not some new director whose work we're talking about. It's like a veteran, and
I
I
mean,
think
the
one of the
fact
more
that-
respected veterans by everyone. Like he's not one
And
of
it's
the.
also and disclaimer is also one of the primary reasons why auteur theory is always for a majority of people is always are going to lambast it.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
disclaimer and movies like this, like again, I have seen Heaven's Gate. I really like Heaven's Gate, but 4 hours Western. I can understand why the studio went bankrupt, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
क्योंकि-
Great movie though. Just saying.
great movie, but indulgence का भी हद होता है. कभी
Definitely.
कभी indulgence का हद होता है.
Yes.
No, I'm saying for me, I think the fact that I watched Itumama Tambian for the first time and Disclaimer in the same year is probably the most tragic outcome.
Watch Children of Men now just to restore.
Children of Men is amazing. One of the
restore
best sci-fi
faith in
movies
him.
ever made.
Yeah, restore
Yeah.
faith in him and lose your whatever little faith you have in him, in humanity. So yes, that's.
वो तो
that's
वैसे
the
भी
way to
नहीं
go.
है सर.
I know, but थोड़ा बहुत तो है ना क्रिस का. हम लोग थोड़े ज्यादा उसमें बुड्ढों की तरह ज्यादा वो हैं.
From one self-indulgent auteur to another, I would like to transition to Malaikottai Valliban. Which stars Chris's favorite actor Mohanlal and is directed by one of the Malayalam new wave strongest champions. People love this guy, Lijo Jose Pellicer.
I mean, we love
And
him.
what-
We've talked about him so much.
We also love him. I love his Jallikattu.
I think
love
what you
Angamani
said right now,
Diaries.
Amartya, can apply to all three films we are going to be discussing. So,
Yes, I know.
yeah. Anyways.
But
Uh,
Malaikottai Valliban is almost as disappointing as Disclaimer for me, except it is not as bad. I think it is just
It's arguable though that Malaikottai Valliban, is that fine, Chris?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Applause.
It feels probably as long as Disclaimer does.
It feels probably as long
It
as.
does.
Yeah.
But my problem with Malaikottai Valliban is very simple. The imagery, I know exactly the references he's using. I
Sure.
know exceedingly well which references he's using.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z ला रहा है बंदा.
Yeah.
He's bringing in Akira Kurosawa's Red Beard से शुरू करके
Ran?
Seven Samurai. Ran, Red Beard, Seven Samurai सब ला रहा है.
Mhm.
Why is this movie so goddamn long, so goddamn episodic, and so goddamn missing an entire emotional connection? कुछ नहीं है मूवी में, कोई इमोशनल कनेक्शन नहीं है, सिर्फ विजुअल्स पे चल रहा है.
Hmm.
आई लाइक लीजो ओजे पेलिसेरी, बट इंडियन जैक स्नाइडर मत बनो ना भाई.
That's very so I've not seen much Zack Snyder, so I can't say much about that comparison, but I find that a bit offensive to Lijo Jose Pellissieri. There is one sequence in it though, I think, which reminded me of whatever Zack Snyder I have seen, and
That
that
slow motion
sequence,
sequence of that
yeah,
archery.
and that sequence
Yes.
is one of my least favorite things I've seen this year. So,
Hmm.
it's sort of going in that territory.
Again,
Anyways,
this entire movie is so chock full of fantastic production. Okay.
yep.
And like
Hmm.
those Dragon Ball Z elements, like, Malaikottai.
What are the Dragon Ball
Dragon
Z
Ball Z
elements for whoever's not familiar, Amit?
First of all, if you are not familiar with Dragon Ball Z elements, you have a bad childhood. But anyway, doesn't
मैं
matter.
मेरा वैसा ही है ना, इसलिए मुझे समझाओ.
Dragon Ball Z is basically a
I know what
shonen
Dragon
anime.
Ball Z is.
Shonen
I'm
anime.
just saying, but yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
It is a shonen anime. एक
Yeah.
shonen anime में हमेशा a protagonist will always meet another antagonist who is stronger than him, and
Hmm.
to get over him, he will have to train, he will have to fight, he will
Sure.
have to understand the emotion, he will have to understand and reconnect with his familial roots and
It's like
everything to
Chandni
become
Chowk to
more
Chinatown,
powerful.
right?
First of all, the name of the film, it's Chandni Chowk to China, no?
Is it China?
Yes.
Well, I mixed 36 Chinatown in it.
You insulted Roman Polanski's masterpiece as well as one of
Oh,
the
I wasn't
defining
thinking about that, Amartya. I was thinking
animes,
about 36 Chinatown, not
as
Roman
well as one of
Polanski's
the
Chinatown.
as well as one of the defining shonen animes of the 90s. You insulted both in the same breath. Fantastic. Even Lijo Jose Pellicetti did not do so badly about this.
Okay.
No, but every shonen anime is basically that. Every time he
Hmm.
goes in an antagonist, he will have to train harder and become much more powerful.
Yeah.
If he gets defeated, he will go to heaven, he will train
Hmm.
again, and they will come back to earth again, and then he will defeat again.
Sure.
His entire conceit is being more powerful and more powerful. It is
Hmm.
essentially like fighting anime with visuals and everything. That's what it is.
Sure.
It's Malaikottai Valliban is that. Malaikottai Valliban is also One Punch Man. One Punch Man is also another anime in which which is a subversion of all these shonen animes.
Okay.
In which there is a hero called Saitama
Hmm.
who decides that I will become the most powerful person ever. So
Yeah.
he reads basically one karate book, and he
Hmm.
learns one punch, and he becomes so powerful that he punches through everybody with one punch and defeats everybody.
Sir, ये
That
तो
is the
चांदनी
first
चौक में भी था.
एक second. That is the first 10 minutes, ठीक है,
Yeah.
of the entire anime. The rest of the anime is everybody else trying to understand what the fuck are we going to do with this guy.
Yeah.
Because he's not interested with anything. He's the most powerful person ever.
Ah, okay. I get what you're getting at. Yeah.
Yes. He's not
Yes.
interested with anything.
Yeah.
So it is both. It is Dragon Ball Z homage. It is also One Punch Man homage.
Sure.
And I'm like, हो क्या रहा है यहाँ पे? What are you trying to do?
I think so just to give a personal, and then Chris, please go ahead on. I think you like this the least of all of us. I think I was into the film for the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, lost it entirely for the middle chunk of the film, and then was into it for the last 30
when he
minutes.
reaches that kingdom, right?
The Portuguese stuff in this was abysmal, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought that
Oh,
is
yeah.
where I thought that's where I was basically like,
That
what
is
have
so
you
shonen
done?
anime. I can't
Primitive
even tell you.
machine gun.
No,
Yes.
I wouldn't mind. I just thought the execution was also just. I was like,
Also, who is that
not buying
stand-up
it.
comic? Who is the stand-up comic in this movie? The guy who is playing the Baldy. Arey,
I am not sure.
the
Kौन है?
Kannada stand-up comedian.
Oh, the villain. Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Oh,
yeah,
the one
yeah.
who
He-
keeps on
quote unquote
laughing, and it
villain.
has
Yes.
that one tune
Yeah.
got annoying after a point. The
Yeah.
what it's like the villain cut tune which keeps on playing, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
just
uska
enough
leitmotif, yeah.
already.
Yeah.
But no, I liked the last 30 minutes. That was when the film actually, I thought, got somewhere. Like, I thought it sort of began, and I was like, oh, I'm interested in where it goes now. But उसके बीच में जो सब देखना पड़ा था, I think I can't remember the last time when a film का interval हुआ, and I took legitimately a 1 hour break between one half and the other. I was like,
Also, another
this is a
problem
lot.
is also another problem is every woman, like a shonen anime, like any shonen anime protagonist, everybody loves him, everybody wants to
Yes.
be him,
Yeah.
or everybody wants to fuck him. It's basically these three.
Is
It's
there
basically
That is
these.
very
but there is there any sexual tension in this? Somewhat, I guess, but whatever.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Attempted, let us
It
say.
is attempted. My
Very
problem,
light though, isn't it?
yeah, and my problem is it's Mohanlal.
Yeah, okay. Can I? Okay,
Yes,
I'm going to
please.
diagnose this
I gave the
as
stage to Chris. Now go ahead.
Yeah.
thank you, Amartya. Okay, I'm going to diagnose this problem a little bit, particularly by comparing this film to Leisure Pellicer's last film, which I'm quite fond of, which is Nan Pakal Nayatham. Full
I
context, I
also
have
love
not
that
seen
movie. I also
any
love
of his
that movie.
other work. Yeah, so I'm talking about these two films in particular, and it is a problem. It is a problem with the Mammootty versus Mohanlal ethos of cinema. When it comes to Malayalam cinema, okay. I'm probably going to get a lot
आप
of
सारा
hate for this.
ऑडियंस लूज करवाओगे, but ठीक है, बोलो.
Okay,
boy.
and I'm going to put a disclaimer in just so that
Oh,
all
don't
of
put
us
any
remain
more
safe.
disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
The fact of the matter is, I am not an expert of any kind in Malayalam cinema. I grew up watching it because my parents were born and brought up in Kerala.
Sir, you are the
But-
only Malayali here. ठीक है. हम लोग
Yeah,
तो
but
और
I
भी
am
नहीं
not.
He's the
Yeah,
Bollywood
but-
fan though.
So I am the Bollywood fan. I grew up in
Yeah.
Bombay. I'm the Bollywood fan, but I have ambient exposure to Malayalam cinema. Let's just say, but
much better than ambient
giving-
exposure to current Bengali cinema, mind you. But चलो ठीक है.
Okay,
Good.
so I really like Mohanlal and Mammootty as actors in general.
Yeah.
And I'm particularly talking for both pre-mid 2000s.
Mhm.
Both of them are extremely versatile actors. Though for me personally, Mammootty is just leagues above Mohanlal as an actor, but they are both fantastic actors.
Mhm.
And Mohanlal, for me particularly, I associate with a lot of incredible comedies, particularly the films that he did with Srinivasan. I would particularly, for anyone interested, just watch. There's a trilogy of films. It's called Nadodi Kattu, Pattana Pravesham, and Akkare Akkare Akkare. Genuinely, three of the funniest films you will watch in your life, and I mean it.
Mhm.
Fantastically well. His comic timing
Is it
insane.
language?
Okay.
Is it language limiting or are the jokes
No,
open
it's
enough
not.
for
It's
people?
just so Narodi Kata basically opens with these two want to go to Dubai, and so they wear that white garb that people in Dubai wear, and they get on a boat, and the boat goes for like 5 minutes, and they land up in Chennai, thinking they're in Dubai, walking around in these garbs, extremely confused at why everybody's speaking Tamil around them. It's hilarious. And so so as these two sort of evolved in their craft, they both did a variety of films. One thing you have to note in Kerala is we don't have the traditional star culture, particularly that is very common in South India.
Sure.
In your Tamil industry, in your Telugu industry, so on and so forth. No major actor
You mean
of
to
ours
say
has
कोई
had a
title
long...
card नहीं होता है? You mean to say कोई title card
No,
नहीं
there
होता?
is no superstar
ठीक है.
Ranbir Kapoor.
Superstar Ranbir Kapoor. Yeah,
Of
BD,
course,
Varun Dhawan.
of course, you cite the example from that movie. Eddie is your favorite.
Yeah, BD, Varun Dhawan. जो अब Bollywood कर रहा है.
No, none of that.
Okay.
And none of our actors have had a long political career, and that sort of thing just doesn't happen in Kerala. But unfortunately, what happened is Mohanlal at some point just sort of wanted to become a star. Now, I say this doesn't happen till the mid 2000s because somewhere I think around 2005, 2006, he does two films in the same year. One is Udayananataram, which is essentially the Malayalam cinema's version of Om Shanti Om, and it's a fantastic film.
Okay.
It's the Malayalam, so no, none of the Punarjanam.
You're
I
not
would say you can stay
genuine
quiet. Yeah,
introspection.
I was about to say.
You're not selling
No,
me
a
on this
gen-
at all.
No, it's a genuine introspection on the film industry. It's not
Sure.
the Punarjanam type of
Okay,
nonsense,
okay.
which I love.
God.
Nonsense,
Yes.
affectionate.
Yes.
But he also does a film like Tanmatra, which is the Blessy film which won him the national award. So
Sure.
he was doing a variety
I've
of
heard
roles
of
at
this.
till this point.
I've heard of this.
Yeah,
yes.
I've not watched it, but I've heard very mixed opinions about it. some people love it. And I will get to the Ardjividam hate as well as we
I was going to
talk
say
about.
you were going to talk about another Blessy film as well.
Yeah.
but
I
let's
was.
go.
I was. So we'll get there.
Hmm.
But Mohanlal fell into this idea of wanting to be a star. So as we say, yesterday, as we record this, was the release of his directorial debut, one gem of a
Oh,
gorgeous
Paros.
looking film called Paros.
Yeah.
The trailer is magic. I
Is
highly
it the
recommend you
Singham
watch it.
again trailer effect?
No,
It is
it's
not.
just
It is basically a
it
kids
is-
movie.
Adi
It is a kids movie, but with the most incredible CGI I have seen in
so
my
Adi
life.
Purush. Okay.
I think
Adi
it's
Purush
worse
se
than
better
Adi
hai.
Purush because it is Malayalam cinema. Okay,
Okay.
Adi
I
Purush
don't
se
expect
better hai.
Adi Purush from Malayalam cinema.
Sure.
Okay, so Mohanlal ka films post that era were all this hyper masculine worshipping his role as a star, which we have been talking about another actor that Dhruv and I are extremely fond of falling into a similar
I
sort
mean,
of
Amartya is
trap.
also fond of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Who are
Amartya
you
is also
talking
fond
about?
of, but
Yeah,
Shah Rukh
sir,
Khan, sir.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
वो तो रहता
So,
ही है हमेशा, but anyway.
So what happened? Mammootty has never ever been the sort of star thing. He's always been extremely self-deprecating, and he's only wanted to be an actor. He's never. Mohanlal went into this whole public singing, and there's a very famous clip of him. I was telling you guys about him lip syncing and getting caught, and it is the funniest thing you will see in your life. He sings that one word so miserably that he gave up on singing for the rest of his career. He was like, I'm not even going anything near anything that is not acting. And so so Mammootty has constantly reinvented himself as an actor. Like this man, at the age of 70 something, I think in 2023 does Kadal, where he plays a gay
Kadal the
man,
Code.
and
Yes.
and something like Nanpakal Nirittamayakam and Brahma Yugam all like in one go. So that is he is an actor in the way that we appreciate them
And
in
he's
Malayalam
also
cinema.
making commercial movies like Amal Neeraj's version of the Mahabharata, which I'm currently forgetting right now, Bhishma Parvam.
Bhishma Parvam.
Bhishma Parvam,
Bhishma
yes, Bhishma Parvam, which is
Osler.
really not really quite good. And then you have Turbo, which is not a good movie, but Mammootty is exceptional in it because,
So he is constantly, he's always reinventing himself. Mohanlal has no interest. He does the Prithviraj, Lucifer, now you're doing the sequel, L2E. And
hey, Mohanlal
all
was
that
good in
sort
Lucifer. I really liked him. I like
I'm
how
not saying
Prithviraj
he's
used
not
him.
good.
Yeah.
I am
You
not
just don't like
saying
his
he's
choices,
not good.
you're saying.
I'm saying this is the
You
ethos
mean
that
to
he
say
has
you're not a
built for
Drishyam
himself.
fan? You mean to say that you're not a Drishyam fan?
I am
Sir,
not
I
a
think-
Drishyam fan.
boycott
Let's-
karega
I think
aapko.
I think Chris is already in a lot of trouble here. So I think I'm just going to ask him to get to
Yeah. So I'm just
Malaikottai.
my apologies. So for me, the diagnosis is Malaikottai Valliban is a Mohanlal vehicle, whereas Nanpaka Nirthamayakam is an excellent film, which is made excellent by the filmmaking as well as an excellent performance by Mammootty. I don't think it is a Mammootty vehicle in that sort of traditional sense.
Nanpakal is fantastic because Liho taking a massive swing and going into essentially slow cinema, kind of. Essentially
Gentle
what Liho-
surrealism again. We're back to
gentle
that.
surrealism in a way,
Yeah.
yes. But if Mammootty did not give that subtle performance, that movie doesn't work.
Absolutely.
That movie
I'm not
doesn't
saying that. Yeah, but I'm saying that but it's very indicative that Mammootty isn't taking over the whole thing. It's a symbiotic relationship
In fact,
between the filmmaking
it's
and the
opposite.
performance.
In fact, the environment consumes him. That's the whole idea of
Consumes
that
him,
film.
yeah.
In any
Mohanlal would never, late stage Mohanlal would never allow for such a thing to happen.
I think there
is
is
what
that
I
in
fundamentally
Malaikottai, and I think that's a bit of a problem because I think the film can't marry together Lijo's sensibility of an Anpakal, which I think is, it has a similar shooting style. It has like those wide shots which sort of linger for the longest time, and I'm just like, what are they like apart from establishing the scope of like the scenery, right, of the setting in Malaikottai, in this, what else is the purpose of those shots lingering? I don't get it, and I don't think it serves Mohanlal's performance also well, because I think it minimizes it, whatever that means. Like I don't. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know if I
Again, it's
necessarily
like
agree.
it's like if you think about it, both Dhruv and I really like Jidaigeki movies.
Yes.
This movie very specifically reminded me of a lot of
Jidaigeki, for
Jidaigeki movies.
whoever's not familiar, is.
Samurai movies, older
Yes.
period piece Japanese movies.
Please listen to our
which
episode on it. Yeah.
Please
sorry.
listen to our episode. We really worked a lot on it.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, if you Malaikottai Valliban reminded me a lot of Jidaigeki movies,
Yes.
more so because of the score, because Prashant Pillai's score reminded me a lot of Ennio Morricone.
There are
And I
scenes which
think that is very
there are scenes which like totally recall, like it's like the
full
it
Kurosawa
comes
Leone.
yeah, it comes
Full
later
Leone,
on
yeah.
where they're talking, the what is my relationship to you, and what is the sort of with the father, like the foster father sort of thing, and then the whole legend, what does it mean to be a warrior? I'm like, please tell us, because we've not gotten that feeling throughout the movie. It's like it's one of those
The
things where,
warrior's destiny is averse to him
yeah.
finding love, which I'm like, fine,
Yes.
but kuch to do feelings.
Huh.
Like,
Yeah.
hollowness तो नहीं जा रहा ना भाई.
Yeah.
Even in those Jidaigeki movies, even in Zatoichi, even in all the Zatoichi movies, the best Zatoichi movies always have something about Zatoichi's interiority.
Yeah.
Zatoichi fight, in which Zatoichi basically is escaping gangsters while carrying a kid, has a scene in which he tries to satiate the kid's hunger by ensuring that the kid gets by trying to make sure that the kid gets some milk through his teeth. He's a guy, the teeth doesn't work, but he's trying to do that. Those are those little emotional scenes that are happening in a fucking Zatoichi movie. And the movie I'm talking about is the 10th Zatoichi movies. There are 26 of them. Just saying. And in all of them, there are moments of emotional scenes of Zatoichi which connects you to the character. Kuch to do yahan pe.
I think it
You are
comes
so
later on.
involved in the world building. You're so involved in the world building, both visually and orally, that you forget to give any semblance of connection for the viewer.
Yeah. I've written a wide. It takes a. Sorry, go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
No. All I was saying is that the fact of the matter is, I don't know why I'm supposed to care for Malaikottai Valliban.
Yeah.
That is for me the central problem. Like, if this was an
Exactly.
anime, I mean, not to be derogatory towards anime, despite the fact that I'm not a fan of them. If you're buying
There are
into
very good
a sort
animes,
of,
by the way. I will try to make
I
Chris a fan
know.
of
There's
those.
just not. We'll get there. Essentially, but if I'm buying into an episodic something, I mean, I can imagine a comic or a TV show or a series where it's essentially like watching a He-Man. Like, I'm just here for the glitz of it, the action, whatever. But you're making a film. And if you're making a film, you have to have me invested in the narrative, and you have to have me invested in the characters. Either, at least, you have to do. The fact is, Malaikottai Valliban is not a. I don't even want to call him a character, because he has no discernible traits.
He's a superhero.
Apart from the fact that he's no, but even superheroes can have pathos, which is
End में आता है थोड़ा, I feel.
वो end में आता है ना.
I don't think end में आता है. That is a cop out.
Okay, fair. But I think one of the easiest ways of emotionally engaging people in these types of movies, which sort of have that larger than life actor who can't ever die. For example, in Mission Impossible also, that's what I thought of. You take the supporting characters who are fallible. It's like you will take them, unko you can kill off, or make them the target.
The reason why I think Fallout is the best, even though it doesn't have the most or jaw-dropping action sequence ever do, I still think Fallout is the best, because Fallout calls back to Ethan Hunt's marriage and tries to give closure to that entire arc.
Yeah.
They actually try to develop this superhuman character, quote-unquote superhuman character, into something resembling humanity. ये साला डॉम टोरेटो नहीं है, ठीक है, कि फैमिली कह के गाड़ी चला के कहीं भी जा रहा है. ये तो वो नहीं है ना. Ethan Hunt is much more of a human.
But Malaikottai is actually more similar to that, the Fast and Furious character.
Yes,
actually.
exactly. He's
Yeah.
more Dom
Yeah.
Toretto. He's more Dom
Yeah.
Toretto. It's a family नहीं
Yeah, but
कहता है,
I'm
ये
not
कहता है कि warrior
expecting
अकेला
that.
Warrior,
रहूंगा.
akela. Huh.
Yeah, I'm
अकेला
not
अकेला,
expecting that
yes.
out of a Lijo Joe's Pellisheri film,
Exactly.
especially after the again. I'm talking not even from anything. I'm talking purely from having watched Nanpakal Nerathavekam.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting that from this film.
But again,
I'm expecting.
Chris, Nanpakal is still like an anomaly. I
Yeah.
have seen Angamali Diaries, which I genuinely believe is one of the finest homages to Scorsese's
That's
filmography you
so
can
much
ever do.
more of an energetic film, right? Like in general,
It's
like it has
such a fascinatingly
yeah.
energetic movie. Then you have Jallikattu,
Even
which is
Churuli
like
is very.
Churuli is weird, but
It's
Churuli is like good
weird.
weird.
Yeah.
Churuli is
Yeah.
like good weird, but
Yeah.
it's still weird.
Hmm.
Jallikattu is like it's so tactile.
Yeah.
The horror of it is so tactile. The entire sequence of it is so tactile. यहाँ पर तो the entire thing is also so distant.
It's sterile,
Period
actually.
film में
The
भी,
whole
yeah.
film feels a bit sterile. It feels like I think told you, like it's like a comic. You only said comic book paneling where you can put the thought bubbles and it'll basically show, like you can make it a visual art piece as opposed to a sort of drama. Like the internal drama is almost absent. And after a point, first, I was like, oh, such painterly compositions and all that. And after a while, I was like, is he just saving time by using one composition? Like, is he not wanting to take different angles and shots? I was like, there were, because there's times when there are short reverse shots, he doesn't go for different angles. He's just zooming in on a
He's
character
just zooming
and
in and
zooming
out, and
out. I'm
he's
like,
like 360-degree
is it
cam work and all that
is it
shit.
just
Yeah,
like
he's doing all that.
easier for you to do this? That's why you're doing, because I start thinking about all that because I was so disengaged with the drama. And yeah, the
It's also
characters
so
are given.
distant, right? It's
Yeah.
so interested in luxuriation
Yeah.
that it forgets to actually give character any interiority.
Yeah.
And it's not as if the supporting characters are any interesting either. They are also like
Oh yeah.
barely present at times.
Nothing only.
Yeah, I
Again,
think
very
on
disappointing, especially because I like the world building. I like what the inspiration is using. And he gives us a tease about a sequel, which is never going to happen because nobody is going to
Yes.
give him that much of money to make such a sequel. But
This was
and
a bomb, right?
yeah, this was a bomb.
I don't think it made much. Yeah. On top of being, I think it made some 15 crores or something overall. I was checking today.
Yikes.
But apart from sterile, and again, this is a personal pet peeve. I just thought the dialogue delivery was. I mean, again, this also a fact that you're using a lot of non-Malayalam actors. My mom said it. This is like Mohanlal trying to make Bahubali, which I'm like, nice take, mother. But
how many this director trying to do Bahubali have we seen this year? You had Malaikottai Valliban, you had Devara, you had Kanguva. What else do we have? None of those worked in very big leagues.
I would still assume that Malaikottai is the most accomplished of those.
Yes,
Simply
it is
on the
because
basis
it is
of
in
the
my
direction.
disappointing category rather than
which is why it's the
category.
most. Yeah, but the dialogue is written in this because Malaikottai is somewhere I think actually closer to Tamil Nadu than it is in Kerala. There is this sort of inflection which is sort of a mix of what is traditionally Malayalam and Tamil and what Rangarani speaks is closer to Tamil. But the fact of the matter is, of the people speaking that, only Mohanlal seems comfortable in giving that, like speaking in that that language. For every other character, it felt like they have been given like something they don't, like a language they don't know how to speak, and they're just enunciating the words out, and it makes the entire thing feel so pan India. But also, like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Malayali actors in it, and even they are not managing to make the dialogue even convincing. So then I'm like, why am I even watching this? But I can't even.
Well, you watched it over 7 hours,
your,
right? So
I watched it over 7 hours. It took me an entire day to get through it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because you are not speaking Malayalam. I mean, you're not even speaking a semblance of Malayalam. Like when Mohanlal speaks, I can get what he's going for. None of the other characters, it even sounds like they're speaking a language foreign to themselves. Which I'm like,
Which is a
now the
problem.
investment tha nahi, wo bhi chala gaya.
Yeah.
And for me, that last half hour
You know,
feels
this
like an
reminds me of
absolute cop-out.
Okay.
This reminds me of Shogun, because in Shogun, the Japanese actors are speaking a version of Japanese that current Japanese people don't use.
Mm-hmm.
Jidaige ki Japanese is very different from
Different, yeah,
contemporary
yeah.
Japanese. So they had to train, they had to work really hard.
Yeah.
And I have read a lot of like reviews from Japanese contemporary people who praised the show because they were like those people sounded very
Got the
convincing.
mannerisms and the feel of that language. I
Inflection
mean,
utterly
yeah.
and having seen a lot of Japanese movies, even though I'm not nowhere near any of the Japanese people who are critiquing all this,
Yeah.
I kind of buy
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
You can get the mannerism right.
No,
So
it's about the feel of it, if anything else, right? It's like you
yes,
can feel sometimes that something's authentic or not. Here, I think the distance, I think, is the big
here
thing
the
I could add.
artificiality and the distance, I think, further compounds
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
each of the
Absolutely.
foreigners.
Like I've written, it's a wide shot approach that needed much more closing up. Can we close this topic then? And move to
Where should we go to?
Other
Where should we
people
go? Should we
closed
go
up.
to
Should we
claustrophobia
go
of a
to
city?
other? No,
Should we
should we
go
go to other people closed up in institutions?
where? Agra?
We
No,
can either
in
go
in
to
in
Agra or
in
to the jail in
in a
China.
place,
Where
yeah,
कहाँ
in
जाना
the
है?
jail, in a place you don't believe is real.
Yes. कहाँ जाना है आप बोलो?
I
कहाँ
think
जाना है?
let's before going overseas, let's go to Agra.
और नहीं सहना है मैंने। जवाबदारी देखी इसकी, अपनी औलाद निठल्ली है। हमारी भी छत है माँ बेटे की, दुकान तो वहीं लगेगी। कौन आ रहा है? तेरे को क्या?
Okay. So my pitch
Because I
Okay,
think
let
Jigra.
me get ready
No,
for
no,
this.
no, because,
Let me get ready
because-
for this. ठीक
Because
है.
Jigra has already had a live stream, so I'm literally just gonna, we're gonna squeeze it through as opposed to Agra,
yeah,
which I
and
guess
I'm
we are
going
gonna
to trauma
deliberate
dump
on.
about. I'm going to
Deliberate
trauma dump
upon.
about what I've
So,
experienced with Dhruv.
yeah, so I think Agra will be the one which will have the fruitiest discussion. Let's just say that. So clearly, let's establish this. I am edgy nihilist again. Sorry, edgy nihilist who likes pornographic sensibility, which means I like Agra. And Amartya and Chris are not edgy nihilists who like pornographic
Oh,
sensibility, so
I'm
they
very
don't like
edgy.
Agra.
I'm very edgy. If you know
am
my
not.
liking for disclaimer, you know exactly the parts I like. So even I like those. But I like my pornography shot better.
Okay.
I am sorry. I have some taste.
Anyways, this is Chris's pick, right?
Okay. So I am taking one for the team with this one because I thought Dhruv and Amartya would have more interesting choices. My other choices were all like, fortunately, I spared RG with them, so let's let that
Yes.
be there.
Leave
But
it, leave it.
it was more boring stuff like Dopati and all of that sort of stuff. So
सर
we are
दोपत्ती
going to go.
डिसअपॉइंटमेंट होगा भी कैसे ना कोई एक्सपेक्टेशन ही तो नहीं था क्या
That is true. I mean, we've seen the worst of, not the disappointment. Like, यहाँ तो I तो didn't have
वो
any
तो ट्रैश
expectations.
है
This is worst
वो
of
तो
worst
ओपनिंग
of.
I mean,
सीक्वेंस
for you
वो तो
guys, Agra
ओपनिंग
is
को
also
पैराग्लाइडिंग
worse.
सीक्वेंस देख के ही ट्रैश लग गया था दोपत्ती में मतलब कुछ
Yeah,
भी
yeah,
हो
but
रहा है वो
Agra for you guys is also worst off only. It's not disappointments. But I guess,
Yeah,
Amartya,
it's
if
not
you've seen
disappointment, for
Titli,
sure.
then maybe it's a disappointment also. Like, I don't know how that, clicks. I mean, we all have seen Love, Sex or Dhoka and we all like it. And Kanu Behel is associated with that. So, you can make an argument for this being a colossal disappointment, let's just say, for Chris and Amartya also then. So,
मेरे
yeah.
लिए
Yeah, it's a
डिसअपॉइंटमेंट नहीं है
5-star
सर मेरे लिए
versus
वर्स्ट
half-star.
स्टफ ही है
ठीक है. Okay.
Okay.
Chris,
So
go ahead.
Agra is Kanu Behel's 2023 film, which was again shown at Cannes.
Everything
So apparently मेरा
you dislike Cannes or Cannes,
मेरा
whatever it is.
कान के साथ 7 जन्मों का की दुश्मनी है, whatever. But it is the thing is I want to give up. Okay, so I spoke about my commitment to the bit with disclaimer, but turns out I am not self-hating enough to subject myself to rewatch Agra, which
As you
round
should
of
not
applause.
be because you hate it. I also told you this.
So
सर ये क्रिस है सर ये क्रिस है असाइनमेंट के नाम पे 3 बार एनिमल देख चुका है ये बंदा मैं कुछ नहीं कह रहा यार 2 बार सॉरी आई एम सॉरी
वो तीसरी बार वो हाइड कर रहा है बाद में एक्चुअली रिवील करेगा कि 3-4 बार देख लिया
4 बार देख लिया दैट मींस ही हैज सीन एन अप्रोक्सीमेशन ऑफ 12 hours of Sandeep Reddy Vanga's magnum opus which is
I'm
going to be a
shocked that you
trilogy
don't
by
like
the way
Agra
so
now.
which is going to be a trilogy by the way so
Sorry,
you know
Chris, go
yay
ahead.
for all of us
Introduce Agra to us, please.
yes
So I wanted to give a plot summary, but I realized I just the fact of the matter is I don't know what this film is. Yeah, exactly. That is my. So Agra is a film that attempts
Agra is a film.
to say something.
T-shirt. Agra is a
Agra is a film. Clip insert, right? That's it.
What is you only said it's a film? No,
Yes. Yes. That's the
Agra
best
is a film
insult they
that
can give any movie.
Amartya, you better share this to Kanubel.
yes.
Anyways, Chris, bolo,
May I? That attempts to say something about masculinity, patriarchy, gender, and
Oh, by the way,
space,
delete all this
and,
stuff.
yeah, just like censor it out.
Yeah, censor it out. Yeah.
But yeah, that tries to say something about so and so things.
Yeah.
Whether or not it says those things is something that we will disagree upon. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give my 2 cents because I just cannot bother more brain cells on this thing. And then I will do what originally this episode was conceived as, which is a 1v1 debate between Amartya and Dhruv on the merits and demerits of Agra. Essentially, so just like getting my thoughts off in one go. I thought this film was utter and sheer trash. It's the quintessential film that is made for, again, my apologies, Dhruv, made for either 14-year-olds or perverts, which is my sort of tagline for the film.
Glad to know
Kanubel
I'm
is like a
belong to
pretentious.
either.
Kanubel is like a pretentious James Gunn. ठीक है. चलो.
Okay, interesting. But it does it. I don't even want to get into the morality of the whole thing because that is a whole other kind of worm with its disability, with its use of disability and incest, which it does absolutely nothing to even bother talking about. But and rape, obviously. But it for me was. What I describe it as something that is simultaneously underdeveloped and overcooked. So Kanubel had an idea which he did not fare out pretty well, and then proceeded to allow it to become however long, because it feels like an entire like a year long for me, but however long the film is. And because of
Amartya,
that,
the cut you sent me is actually apparently it's shorter than what the cut premiered at Cannes, apparently. So I think the cut we watched is 1
Isn't
hour
that a good
53
thing?
minutes. I didn't mind the
Huh.
movie, so I you know I
Isn't
have
that a good
different
thing that
views.
you watched a shorter version? Like Ridley Scott को थोड़ा सीखना चाहिए ना, इतना director's cut बनाता है बंदा. But चलो.
Ridley Scott को
So,
Kanubel से
it-
सीखना चाहिए. That's okay. Anyways, Chris.
Yeah, so I think the film does, like Amartya described, the edgy nihilism in a very, I want to be an edgy auteur who makes a very provocative film for no sake apart from I want to be an artist or whatever. Like, I'm going to be very annoying about this film because I absolutely despised it.
No, you should
And,
be. You would
yeah.
loathe it so much. You should be allowed to be
I
that
genuinely.
annoying.
I suffered through it. Like, again, I'm trying to bring out the intellectualism and sort of articulate what fails about the film. Okay, so I'll give the best comparison. So earlier this year, or a couple of months back, I watched a film called Jaun Kaha Bataye Dil, also known as Love,
yes.
Oh yeah.
which is a film on Netflix. And I went into the film for a project that I was working on, and I finished the film. I think I texted you or we messaged that I was so triggered by it. It took me 2 hours to calm down enough to be able to go to sleep. For me, it was a film that wanted to just be crass and provocative for no other reason that it's like triggering the libs almost type nonsense. And that's what Agra felt like to me. Like this man wanted to say something, and I think there is something interesting that can be said. The fact is, Kanubel just doesn't say it. So yeah, I mean, again, I don't know if I can articulate myself any better because I don't want to remember this film. Hence, I just
We
think
will make
it is
you.
poorly
Don't worry.
conceptualized. I'll chip in when I remember things. But I thought the performances were pretty good. I thought the casting was quite nice. That is the one good thing I'll say about the film. I think the editing is a travesty. And
Okay.
I agree with Varun when he says that to say that it is representative of the main character's mental state is an absolute cop out. And yes, sex will not cure your mental illness, which is a disclaimer. I didn't know I have to give. Yeah, that is my
I think we should be giving the
extended
disclaimer for all of Kanupel's filmography post-Titli.
I mean, two movies he's made after that.
Both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So
Amartya.
now I will moderate whatever is going to happen.
Let me be.
I'm going to let Dhruv speak.
No, I'm
क्योंकि
not here to
अगर मैं बोलना
convince.
स्टार्ट करूँ तो गालियाँ निकलेगी.
So I'm not
आप
here to
बोलो.
convince any of you guys that you are wrong. I don't think that is my objective in the first place. My objective is simply that I responded to the film on levels where I thought what Chris is saying, that he tried to communicate something but didn't. I thought it managed to communicate that something, and I probably made that extra step of connecting something more. So like it's the Haseen Dilruba, the first Haseen Dilruba wala scenario where I was just basically like, maybe I am doing more.
कुछ ज्यादा काम कर लिया था उस movie में
Like
भी
I have
आपने.
done more maybe than the filmmaker intended, but I found the movie in a very early Anurag Kashyap, darkly comic, pessimistic way fairly watchable and appealing. I thought it was gritty. I liked the editing. I thought the editing was effective most of the time. And it reminded me of some of Lars von Trier's movies, which I think, again, I'm a fan of like this type
Dogma
of
95 Lars von Trier.
sort of like that. Like it has that dirt and like grunge to it, which I thought was interesting. And I thought,
buy that kinda.
and I'm approaching it more from the lens of, and I've written this, I'll take this wildly borderline insensitive and offensive auteurist swing versus the compromise muck that even our auteurs have to be content with making nowadays. So, for instance, I will take this over Vikramaditya Motwane's Control. That is my perspective. I am not saying anyone should have that perspective. I'm saying I don't think what some of the complaints you guys have about the fact that disability cures mental illness. I don't think the film says that at all. To me, like, all that stuff isn't said or implied even. I think it's much more cynical, pessimistic about masculinity and patriarchy and how the cycle sort of keeps on going on. So to me, it's much
It's
more
interesting also. It's
downbeat.
interesting also कि in a in two neo noir movies or two pulpy movies, disabled people are shown as way outs for these flawed characters.
Yeah.
Except in both of these cases, those way outs become like completely either compromised or completely flattened out. I speak, of course, about Agra and Fira Yasin Tinduba. It's like,
I still think Ferhai Haseen Dilruba does a far better job with it.
Really?
yes,
With the character it kills off?
the character it kills
With-
off. Yes.
I still think it does a better job.
Okay. I mean, I
See,
don't think
buy-
I don't think
See,
the
I buy
character
your
of the
case.
disabled person is particularly strong. I think it has shades to it which the film, I think, forgets to. I think there's a chunk missing between their relationship blossoming into whatever it is blossomed into, and it sort of then slipping away because they get caught up in like her land ka thing. Like there's a land
But
dispute
आपको तो
happening with
editing
her.
पसंद है.
Except
आपको
for
तो
that
movie का
bit,
editing
no.
पसंद है.
Except for that bit, I'm saying. Like, I think there's
लेकिन
something
वो
missing there.
editing तो पूरा movie में ही है.
No, I like the jump cutting when it sort of. So basically, there's a lot of moments in the film where you have short reverse shots between characters.
Yes.
It is jarring. Like, it doesn't feel like it's in sync with each other. There are background में songs playing, and I like how he's used background songs actually. A lot of this is a very LSD take actually. I remember when we were talking about LSD on the second story. I think he co-wrote that with
Yes, he wrote.
Divakar. So there's this song going on which sort of informs what the feelings are, but in a sort of very ironic way also. Anyways, what was interesting to me was that when these people are talking to each other, these songs sort of have a very, rather than like flowing between them in terms of conversations, because of the editing, they seem to clash. Like, it doesn't feel like anything's natural whenever they are interacting. So I like the jitteriness of the whole film a little bit. So that is
See,
my justification.
मेरा प्रॉब्लम सिंपल है, ठीक है. पहली बात तो यू आर डूइंग टू थिंग्स हियर. पहली बात, यू हैव सीन अ लॉट ऑफ डेविड लिंच मूवीज, और यू हैव सीन अ लॉट ऑफ फ्रेंच न्यू वेव मूवीज, और तुम्हें वो घिसटना है. ठीक है, फाइन, घिसटना है, घिसटो, क्या ही कर सकते हैं. अब हमें देखना पड़ेगा मूवी, चलो. बट अगेन, you want it to be a focus on the sexual repression of Indian youth, and you want to, also connect that with the housing crisis in an urban society like current day Agra. Two completely different things, by the way. If the housing
I don't think
crisis,
that different though in the film's world. I'm just saying.
If the housing crisis, claustrophobia is further increasing the sexual repression of the person, of the young person involved, to the extent that he becomes an a-hole and incel, and a person who is resorting to quote unquote incest at times to do all that stuff, I do think that the reverse of it, that incel nature of it should inform that housing crisis ka subplot, that should have also been done better. वो नहीं है, ठीक है, वो नहीं है. My entire point of this whole movie is कि movie में actually कोई point नहीं है. If the movie's point was that it needs to stay within the intersection of these two different plot lines, it doesn't stay in the intersection. Intersection क्या? It doesn't even take a side. It doesn't even choose to develop. It doesn't even choose to develop one side of the story or another side of the story. It doesn't go completely into the spiraling of this character, of this young male character, into sexual debauchery and then whatever he's trying to do. क्योंकि तब ये shift हो जाता है in that land deal of the woman he's currently cavorting and living with. Neither does the story go completely focus on the claustrophobia as well as the microcosm of that apartment building, which is basically representing the overpopulation of a country completely sidelined by the government and completely broken apart by the government. बहुत कुछ है मूवी में. I'm not saying that. कोई exploration नहीं है मूवी में. That is the bigger problem. It's all vibes. It's all just, I'll give you the vibe of claustrophobia. I'll give you the vibe of grittiness. I'll show you what sexuality, I'll show you what gritty sexuality looks like. I'll show you what gritty,
grungy, but
I'll show you what grunge looks like. But if each and every one of these swings, and Anurag Kashyap, an early Anurag Kashyap swing also had a point. There is no point here.
Okay.
I think
point नहीं लगा मुझे.
I think for me, the problem is that the two never intersected for me. Like, I never convincingly bought that. Like, I what you said, Dhruv, I think it's the ulta. I think these two things make sense in the real world. But in the world that Kanu Behel has constructed, for me, they almost run parallelly to each other and feel like I see the moments where he's trying to make the two intersect, but they just don't work for me. It feels like there are two ideas that are fighting against each other instead of being two ideas that are in a parasitic relationship with each other, that are exacerbating each other, as Amarjit is pointing out. It's not that claustrophobia is leading to more sexual repression and vice versa.
At least it is hinted at in the beginning, but उसके बाद कुछ किया नहीं उसके साथ.
कुछ नहीं किया. It's like Kanu Behel has got two ideas in his head and he doesn't know how to put them together, is my problem.
Okay. I thought it was going also to because there's the whole father angle to it, which I thought it was going more on a generational level, and how that sort of festers within, you were born in one house, like one place, you have a fixed position. That's the whole place thing for me. And then the whole idea is that he is caught up in that building, in that mentality, in that very male psyche thing in this film, which sort of causes him to be caught in a sort of loop of self-destructive behavior. He wants an out, I think, by a reconstruction. Now this goes reconstruction literal in the film, like he wants to rebuild his life. To me, that sort of worked on that level. He tries to rebuild his life. So there's a point of departure.
But again, if I take your logic,
Yeah.
because that is one throw line, because that is one lane,
Hmm.
that is a fantastic lane, go with that.
Yeah.
So फिर वहां से ये किंग फैंटेसी का आता है, ठीक है. Again, I'm
King
saying
fantasy
self
with the
सेल्फ डिस्ट्रक्टिव बिहेवियर के नाम पे यू आर
yeah.
शोइंग मी पहले इन द बिगिनिंग अ सरियलिस्टिक इमेज ऑफ हिम बेसिकली fucking a rabbit.
That
That's
I
what he's
think,
doing.
so that for me is that when that moment happened in the film in the beginning, I was like, oh, 100% I'll be on your side, like your and Chris's side. Like that's the sort of edginess that got on my wrong side. After that, the film I thought toned down a fair bit on that edginess. Like it didn't go into sort of,
But
that
no, but that's where I
surrealism.
disagree. I don't think
Okay.
it toned down on that edginess. I think the
Okay.
king fantasy just shifted. It did not become
Okay.
surreal. It became more overtly natural and revealing. Because
Okay.
then it shifted to he meets a disabled person. We are
Yeah.
giving hints at them having a relationship, and then we are shown like long stretches of a static camera showing them having like pretty graphic sex, right?
Hmm.
Pretty graphic sex.
Hmm.
And while he's thrusting and thumping,
Hmm.
he's voicing out his plan to her, and
Hmm.
she's screaming in pleasure. And I'm like, look, I understand watching Game of Thrones gave you the idea of sex position. Really, I admire the gumption of doing it. It doesn't work.
Okay, I don't disagree totally. I just think for me, his relationship with the disabled woman is essentially a mirror image of his father marrying another. Like I think it's the same thing. Like they're trying to go to another woman. It's not about the disability. It's like because after he tries to engage sort of in a very illicit affair with his sister, right, inside his house,
Hmm.
he says that you can I will never see a woman again. I will never do this again. Like that's his whole thing. Like you send me away, I will not do this again. Yet he can't control the sort of I've written a dialogue which I mean we are anyways this is not censored, where the his mother, played very well by the actress whose name I've not noted, she says खड़े लंड पे रिश्ते बनाने का नतीजा ये होता है, which I think is sort of that there is that whole sensibility where he can't escape that impulse, either physical or sort of manifested from, like his father and him are essentially doing the same thing throughout. Like they are finding another woman, they will not settle on that woman for me.
But
Like to
you
me,
got, but you got the messaging right. मेरा problem है कि if I am going to get the messaging, do not give me the messaging so abrasively, na.
fair
You are
enough. I don't disagree. That's fair, I think.
you
Yeah.
you are giving me the messaging so abrasively. Like, listen, I just saw 7 hours of disclaimer. इनमें से 2 घंटे I had to watch a fantastically gorgeous looking sex scene. So I am not averse to sex scenes at all. ठीक है, पहली बार I am really not. But sex scenes का कुछ point होता है, either aesthetically or thematically. यहाँ पर aesthetically तो कोई point है ही नहीं.
I would say that
Thematically,
he's okay. So I would say that, but just trying to justify it would be that he is trying to find an emotional connection via the violence of his sex. Like I think that's the way he's trying to justify. Like he thinks that consummating in a sort of violent, rough, sexual manner would make him have a genuine emotional connection with someone. I don't think the film says that that is how
I
what's
got that
happening.
also. I can buy that and I can get that also, because but then the movie essentially ends with a validation, because his plan, first of all, तो उसका plan का कोई definition ही मुझे
So I
आधा से
I
ज्यादा
was
समझ
about
में
to
नहीं आया.
I was about to say that there is a point of departure, essentially the last 30 minutes of the film, right?
हाँ.
That's either you buy it as a dream or you don't buy it as a dream. It's basically like that. To me, I just buy it as a dream on the fundamental basis that I don't think the film has laid enough groundwork before that to
Sir,
go into that optimistic direction.
Sir, last 30 minutes I cannot buy as a dream, क्योंकि कोई visual
No, there is
discontinuity
somewhat.
नहीं है.
There is somewhat.
कहाँ
I
है?
mean,
कहाँ है?
again, I think there is one of the times when he's told by his sister that this person who you love, the disabled lady here, she is actually using you also in order to get her piece of land back. The film has one of those slightly edgy, surrealist sort of shifts before he goes to her place, and then it sort of then he automatically says out of nowhere, "अब हम सब सारे problems मिलके solve करते हैं." I'm like, what? ये कैसे होएगा? Like in my head, I was like, there is no groundwork that's been laid about solving any problems here. Everything's about being crushed by problems, which is why, as you guys, and your point is justified. जो आप लोग को लास्ट इमेज जो लगती है कि उसने ऐसी फेंकी है एम्बिग्यूटी के लिए, आई थिंक दैट्स वेयर इट कम्स well for me, where I'm like, okay, I can buy everything in the middle as more of a
that's the
dream.
that's the thing we both have na. Either you buy it or you don't. I don't buy it, and there is also the fact that जो भी aesthetic discontinuity तुम कह रहे हो ना, that aesthetic discontinuity, that's quote unquote surreal imagery or that slight shifting, that is anyway happening even in the beginning.
No,
even
I
in
know,
the beginning,
absolutely.
I know. I can totally understand why those last 30 minutes would not strike someone as a dream. And I think there's a chunk missing there somewhere of a film only. Like there is something missing.
अगर chunk missing है, एक second, अगर chunk missing है, चंक अगर मिसिंग है तो एक बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है, ठीक है. चंक अगर नहीं मिसिंग है तो साइकिक ब्रेक दिखाना तुम्हारा रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि कैसे तुम साइकिक ब्रेक दिखाओगे. तुमने दिखाया नहीं. तो इफ यू आर नॉट शोइंग मी एनीथिंग, then ultimately what is the point? Because this is a similar thing that is also happening in Kanubel's successive movie, where he's essentially luxuriating on sexuality while showing the utter blackness of the character. Grayness se super blackness. I can understand delving into the blackness of the character. But कुछ तो चाहिए ना, कुछ तो comeuppance चाहिए, कुछ तो चाहिए. At least in Dispatch, Manoj Bajpayee's character basically dies. Spoilers. ठीक है. Manoj Bajpayee's character dies. That's the ending. कोई अच्छा ending नहीं है. At least that's a comeuppance. क्योंकि noir ending है, comeuppance story है. यहाँ पर ambiguity के नाम पे तो comeuppance तो हटा ही दिया ना तुमने. Even if I take into account your, even if I take into account.
So again, so this is maybe another point where we do like not disagree, but like I don't necessarily need him to have a comeuppance, because for me, I've bought that that last image of him is essentially being caught in his own self-destructive loop. Like I don't think it's not a comeuppance really. I think he's back to square one.
मेरा बहुत simple issue है regarding my movie watching experience also. Even if I read something into it, na, it would help me if you give me a visual marker and a good visual marker. Don't give me like some sort of a subtle visual marker. तो जो directors पे Q&A पे कानूबेल कहेगा कि नहीं, वो सीन पे देखना, वहां पर एक शिफ्टिंग है, उससे आपको पता चल जाएगा. नहीं, मुझे वो नहीं चाहिए, आप मुझे सीन दिखाओ.
No,
this
is where I have the Hasin Dilruba problem, because I still defend your take in that case, but by you saying chunk missing, I feel like you're doing apologia. Like the chunk missing.
I'm saying that you guys are correct in not in sort of seeing the last 30 minutes as something else. Else that whatever you see. I don't think I'm correct in suggesting that what I am seeing is a dream 100%. Like I'm saying, I don't buy it as reality simply because the film hasn't built anything up to it. There's a lot of
is it possible that you're saying that the film failing at trying to say what it says makes it better for you?
Not really. I mean, I no, because for me the internal logic of the film was, there's a lot of films that released early in Hollywood and even nowadays where you get false happy endings. You get like there's no like groundwork laid for the solution to happen, but the solution happens and you're just like, because it just happens, you have the room to make a connection. Like you can either buy it or you can either question it. I'm choosing to question it because for me a lot of the film before that is cynical, pessimistic and hopeless, that I'm like, I don't buy this solution. So I'm going to look at it in a different way, because to me that's how I complete the movie in my head.
There's also a problem.
That's what
There's
my-
also there's also a specific problem here ki when you are introducing a solution becomes part of the plot. Plot
Yes.
convolution is part of noir. My
Yeah.
problem is, even if you don't buy into the convolution, you buy into the journey of the character, which is one of the bigger criticisms I have with this movie. क्योंकि मुझे character ही तो ठीक से connective tissue तो कुछ लगा नहीं
fair
ना.
only. Yeah, absolutely fair. I mean, again,
Even in a dog shit, even in a bad shit movie like Animal, the only reason why I buy into Ranveer's character arc is because of Ranveer Kapoor's performance and because of what he's doing. At least has some semblance of a character arc, because before Vanga shits on it in the middle. ठीक है, उसके पहले I can buy कि he is like a मतलब psychotic level of father loving. He has that. ठीक है, that's the one character hook I can buy for 3.5 hours. यहाँ पर तो वो भी नहीं है ना. यहाँ पर you are using, यहाँ पर the idea is very interesting. Sexual repression brought on due to the housing crisis, which is further doubling down due to the housing crisis itself, which is acting upon his repression. And to work on it, he will have to get out of it, but he will have to go back to sexually repressing other people again. Great idea. Movie में वो सब नहीं है. Movie में वो दिखाया नहीं है सही से.
Okay. Fair. So I think uske enough hints hain, let's just say that, like, rather than saying it does that. So to me, I found meaning in it. Let's just say that. Let's end it on that note.
Like I got the hints. अगर hint मुझे नहीं मिलता तो ये premise भी मैं spell out नहीं कर सकता था.
Yeah, no, but
अगर hints मुझे नहीं
then I
मिलता
think
ना,
I think I also did respond to, let's just say, the vibes of this movie.
I
I
need
was
the
surprised.
coherence. I need coherence. Bhai.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes me I don't know, an unsuccessful French New Wave cinephile. I'm sorry. I don't know if that
Listen,
makes me
I have
unsuccessful.
enough grievances about French New Wave myself. It's just, to me, it's again reflective of a Lars von Trier sensibility, which I connect with. Like, his films are
Which,
very
by
messed
the way,
up.
I like his. Which, by
Yeah.
the way, I have also seen LVT's films, LVT stuff enough that I buy his grungy style.
Yeah.
To that end, also, I say that LVT style has a point. I genuinely can't understand the point of this.
Sure.
Vibe.
That's fair.
Genuinely.
I think I don't think I have anything more to try and convince / justify. We were very amicable about this, I think, which is,
क्योंकि
I'm
झगड़ा करके
proud.
फायदा नहीं है ना. आप तो कानू बैल नहीं हो.
That
आप
is
तो
true.
कानू बैल नहीं हो.
And I'm willing to also rewatch, parts of it just to see if I maybe did, judge it more nicely or whatever. Let me be clear, like the whole, just to asterisk this, Varun's whole thing about the disability curing, that I think I'm very much in disagreement with. Like, I don't think disability cures our character here, but okay. Cures the
I don't think
mental illness of a
that's the I don't think that's the quote unquote even thingy that was brought up within this movie itself. The disability thing, at least I believe, is a king fantasy, which is a bigger problem.
Okay.
That is a bigger
And
problem.
he didn't say disability. He said sex won't cure your mental illness, not disability.
Yeah, but
Is what
that,
Varun said.
I never thought that it was curing him. So I guess that
I thought that was
is
the
what I
marker.
got.
I thought that was the marker of I thought that was the entire point of the repression itself. But again, point समझाते the camera becomes luxuriating. The
fair enough.
luxuriating
Voyeurism आ
itself is-
जाता है उसके play में, yes.
voyeurism आ जाता है. The problem is voyeurism cannot work in a LVT aesthetic. It
Yes.
doesn't.
Yes.
You cannot be grungy. You cannot have handycam version and then shoot something luxuriatingly. होता नहीं है भाई.
Fair.
Anyway, Chris,
Anyways,
we were pretty amicable. You did not have to moderate too much at all.
Yes. See, we
I'm
are
very glad.
nice. We are nice.
We are
when
nice.
do- Yeah.
Again, cue the introduction of this episode once more here.
Mammoplasty.
Yes.
Vaginoplasty.
Yes.
Rhinoplasty.
Yes.
Laryngoplasty.
Yes.
Mammoplasty.
Yes.
Vaginoplasty.
Yes.
Rhinoplasty.
Yes.
Laryngoplasty.
Yes.
Control laryngoplasty.
What is that?
Adam's apple reduction.
Yes.
No, but maybe I'm not nice about the next movie, which we already talked about plenty in live
Jigra.
stream. And Chris has heard so
Plenty.
much of me bitching about it that I think I don't need to vent anymore that much.
I have
I am
my
shocked
my
that you
thoughts are
like
pretty
this.
open on the internet. My
Yeah.
thoughts are open on the internet. Okay, so people
Yeah.
can go back and listen to it. I'm really
Yes.
curious and I want to know your take on Jigra.
So
क्यों
yes,
पसंद नहीं है?
this is my second
Tell me.
pick of, or like then the last movie we are discussing, and we are wrapping up fairly quickly because I know we are over 2 hours in this. Is Jigra by Vasant Bala? I don't know if I'll call it a. Actually, yeah, I will call it a disappointment more on the basis of Alia Bhatt as opposed to Vasant Bala. I have enjoyed his work in a sort of disposable way, let's just say that. I don't mind. I think there's a charm to Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota, like a
I
sincerity to
agree.
it, which I like. Monica, Oh My Darling, which both of you hate, I think is,
ट्रैश
yeah.
गोली मारो उसको किसी को
So
किसी को
what you're
फेंको
saying,
डस्टबिन में.
so I think wo sensibility that Vasan Bala has, I think is slightly of, I know it sounds a bit harsh, but like it's like the whole, it's a little unserious filmmaking. Like it's basically like आपको सिनेफिलिया का गेम खेलना है तो आप खेलो. I'm like, I'll watch it.
Yeah, but cinephilia, to paraphrase Rajpal Yadav from Baby John, where he says comedy is serious business, cinephilia is serious business. Cinephilia, by
It
its
can be,
definition,
yeah,
is
but it can
serious
also
business.
not be. And I think Vasan Bala's work, whatever, like especially Monica Darling for me, works only on that level, on the sort of surface. I don't mind the surface of that film. Is
No, but
So
being
it
I
is
don't.
honest.
I don't think
my
he's
no
convinced
no
that
my
it's only
problem is
surface,
my
though.
problem is Monica, oh my darling, is also very dumb.
Dumb to hai,
Hmm.
but I don't
True.
mind dumb. Okay, so it's I think dumb goes well with his cinema. Let's just say that. Actually, yeah, that's a best way to put it, and that's kind of leading into why I don't like Jigra. But
And why I like Jigra, because I don't think it is dumb enough. I think it is. I think
I
it is
think
Can
his
I'm on the
genre
same
sensibility.
page
specific
with this
enough.
I
again,
think
yeah.
his sensibility suits dumb better, and dumb, like silly and all this, I think is better suited to his cinephilia than or like display of cinephilia than Jigra, which I think is trying to be a very sincere melodrama with all the dialogue bazi and everything, and of like a brother sister love, that फूलों का तारों
But
का सबको कहना
but
है,
that's the
that type.
problem. But that's the thing, na. But
Hmm.
that's the thing, na. I don't think it is. I don't think it is entirely trying to be a melodrama only. I
Yeah,
think it is trying to
absolutely.
be a masala. I think it is trying to be a modern masala movie.
Yeah, but I think then
It is
that's
a
that.
melodrama.
I don't
It
think
is a
it's good at
melodrama.
that then.
It is a melodrama in the first, क्योंकि वो brother sister emotionality चाहिए तो ठीक है,
Yes.
brother sister emotionality डाल दिया.
Yeah.
But फिर उसके बाद it becomes a genre movie. It
Yeah,
becomes a
I
prison
don't
break
think.
movie.
Yeah, but I don't think it's good at either. Like I think I think this is okay. So sorry, but this is the other movie which annoyed me actually. After the first 20 minutes, I was just like, every decision made by the movie, I was like, why? Like what? Like why is Vasan Bala directing the sequence like that? Like that was the consistent sort
Which
of feeling
sequence?
I had.
Example
Every
do.
sequence, like firstly, I'm just like, it's the parallel. First I was like, you're doing the parallel track, right? It's like you're showing Ankur, who's Vedang Raina's character's life in the jail,
Jail.
and you're showing that simultaneously with Alia Bhatt's character. So that parallel's fine, even though I found most of the stuff inside the jail perfunctory at best, and useless otherwise. So like I just didn't
See,
find any connection
yeah,
being
yeah.
formed there.
See,
Uh,
here's my quote unquote justification, since you tried to
I
justify
was
a
trying
lot
to
of what I
justify
did.
Agra for the longest
Ye-
time. So yes, yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
here's my justification, quote
Yeah.
unquote. In every of these prison break genre movies,
Hmm.
once the plan has been hatched,
Hmm.
with all of the detailing that can muster, the only way the drama can be done is the plan going wrong within the first second itself.
Yes.
Hmm.
So जब तक प्लान रॉन्ग नहीं होता है, देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम इन ऑल दीज मूवीज वेयर दीज कैरेक्टर्स बेसिकली स्पिन द व्हील्स.
Yeah.
Now, the spinning the wheels could be done in very good ways, like character interaction or character development, or personal story छोड़ दो. It's a screenplay template. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying it is what it is. Vasan Bala does an ingenious thing which I actually applaud, in which he shows the spinning of the wheels by basically shifting the focus entirely away and showing a parallel prison break track through Vedang Raina's character and showing how
Okay.
that failed.
Yeah.
And by that, he's increasing the stakes further. Because then he's telling, listen, I know कि screenplay के template में we need to spin the wheels. But we can't do that because we don't have time now. He's
Okay,
telling the
fair.
audience also we don't have time now.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I think that comes at the cost of whatever interpersonal relationships are being formed. I mean, okay, you have the Alia Bhatt and Manoj Pawar character, which has its time to sort of be formed. Like the relationship takes some time to be actually formed.
Yes.
I think all of Vedang Raina's interactions with anyone in the prison have no basis, I think, in
That I
general.
agree. That
Which I
agree.
think is a big problem, but because you have some of the people dying off and like the film sort of wanting you to emote for them, and then there's like other people associated outside who are linked to the people inside the prison and they are caring for them, but you're not personally. I didn't care for any of them. So I had that issue, and the one other
No, but the
which drove.
perfunctory connection the prison ka people have with the outside, the only reason why I care even like 2% is because I care for the people outside, be it Alia Bhatt's character, be it Manoj Pawar's character. So Alia Bhatt's brother is inside, Manoj Pawar's son is inside. What is the name of the South Indian actor's name? I can't remember. Ravindran, I think. Whatever his name is. His son is inside. So Muthu, his character's name is Muthu. Muthu and Alia Bhatt's character Satya, their combative relationship I actually bought. Many people did not buy that. I bought that relationship.
I thought the moment when it breaks down should have been bruising and complicated and really emotionally
towards the
hurt.
end, right?
Yes,
That was
and
bad.
I thought
that I agree.
that was butchered horribly.
That I agree is extremely bad. Yeah, 100%.
So, but I think those are very critical things for me in this film. I think
I think overall, those are very critical problems with this movie. I understand, but also again, I think his attempt at blending a very traditional Bollywood melodrama in the vein of a Gumra and not the fucking Vikrant Massey led Gumra or the whatever led Gumra, the Sanjay Dutt led Gumra, which was directed by Mahesh Bhatt, which Vasan Bala clearly is homaging in Jigra. So in the vein of a Gumra or in the vein of any prison break thriller, but indulging it with the brother sister sensibility, फूलों का तारों का सबका कहना है, 1000 में मेरी बहन है, blah 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 shit. So you include all of that stuff and you try to indulge in it, and it becomes, I genuinely felt like a somewhat of a sincere attempt, even though he's trying to do some unserious filmmaking with his cinephilia, which at times work, at times fails miserably. विवेक गोम्बर को हंसरा लंडा कहने का कोई मतलब नहीं है गुरु, कोई जरूरत नहीं है, मत डालो ना. Why are you casting Vivek Gombar in it? Cast a fucking Korean actor, na, people who you know in Korean or a Chinese Mandarin actor. Cast any of
that is my other that Hanshi Dao never felt like anything to me. Like the world building to me only felt incomplete in some ways. Like to me it was like there's this
I don't know, man. I thought they spent enough time in it.
Nahin, yaar, like I think there's this whole thing about the rebellion going around and everything. Like there's this whole thing, right, where you need to
the
feel
politicizing of it. The politicizing of it is bad.
No. This is something I told you as well. I think, and I wrote about this well. I think the film is at the cusp of a lot of extremely political questions, both literally with the revolution thing, and also in the false incarceration, death penalty, lot of things. But I think, for me at least, it very convincingly sidesteps the whole thing. Like, to me, it's like, this is something I know is there, but not what I'm bothered with right now. So for me, it just worked out, because I'm like, okay, Satya is such a single-headedly my brother character. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I get it. I know that it's a problem.
Also, I think the revolution integrating into itself into the plot and becoming and further increasing the stakes, I think works well, because there are sequences where they're checking the blueprints, the pipeline, the entire sequence and everything. The revolution itself becomes a linchpin for that entire plan to fail somewhat. If you remember
but then
correctly.
I never got the feeling of her integrating herself even somewhat that like into the rebellion. Like again, there's just more fascinating questions throughout the story, which I thought the film just totally like was like, okay, I understand it's a masala movie, right? Like it's
again ऐसे like open ended strand फेंक दिया काट दिया type of questions तो वसंत बाला के फिल्मोग्राफी पे तो इतना ही है कि आप ट्रक चला सकते हो उन प्लॉट होल से, ठीक है.
इसीलिए मैं कह रहा हूं कि मुझे जब वो चीजें सिली और स्टूपिड होती हैं, आई फाइंड इट वेरी इजी टू forgive them, but I think in this it's in service of something which is supposed to be very emotionally potent. And I think, and third act, I think, is a total car crash, whatever you want to say. Like whenever she
Hey,
goes
I liked
inside
it.
the jail, I
I
thought
really
it was,
enjoyed it.
oh, I thought it was
I
garbage.
liked it. क्या कह रहे हो? अरे, I
I
really
also
liked
saw it
that.
on Netflix, so I don't know if it's a sound mix issue.
Yeah, so
But when I
yeah,
saw
I
it,
am going to
It is
say
a sound
that
mixing thing. It is a sound mixing
where
thing.
people
Yeah,
punched
that we get.
each other, I was like, you didn't feel like they were punching each other. I was like, then how am I supposed to like believe this?
no, but one thing I will say, I saw it in the theater, and I do think the theatrical experience does play into it, because
Oh
I
God,
think
again
there
this.
is something about again I have not rewatched the film since
Yeah.
it came out on OTT, and I thought the film ka plotting was a bit of a mess, and I had a lot of the issues that you are saying, but for me, I don't think they manifested in a way that hindered my viewing experience, just because I think the film on that scale as a masala, and like what Amartya is saying, as a masala entertainer, had me hooked, had me engaged.
Okay,
I
fair.
thought, even though like there's some of the final action sequence ka stuff that doesn't work for me, I thought it got the right emotions out of me in
So
that
I think
moment.
that
So
was the other
again,
thing. The emotional punch for me was almost entirely missing. There were individual moments in which I was like, oh, Alia Bhatt is like, she sparks within that scene. Like her dialogue bazi is good in a scene, though that scene feels ill-placed. Like that was the consistent sort of thing. I was like, and his cameos from his other movies, I was like, just stop it. Like, I want to get
Oh
inside
yeah,
this
yeah, I
movie.
remember those. Yeah.
Don't put your other actors in this movie.
But
It's like
also, I
one
also
of those
think,
things.
there is a thing कि I saw some of the bigger criticism of the movie being afforded to Alia Bhatt का character, and I'm like, ये same character तो रणबीर कपूर ने करा है एनिमल में, तब
Yeah.
तो आप लोगों को पसंद आया, आप लोग क्या. But जो भी हो,
No,
it's like
I liked her. I liked the first 15 before. That's why I always said, like, before it goes to Hanshi Dao, I think the setup is pretty good between.
setup is quite good. Yeah, setup
I
is
think,
quite good.
and I think the more interesting villains are the family members who live in Delhi. Like, I think those are the more interesting villains of the story, who never sort of really feature after doing their kand, essentially, to
But it's
both of them.
also, I also think the fact that it is essentially like a modernization or a recontextualization of Zanjeer in a way, which again is very interesting to me. Because you are essentially like, Zanjeer is so much of an angry young man, quote unquote, masala movie, that people forget to say that Zanjeer is at best a decent movie. Any fans of Zanjeer, please don't come and kill me. But it is true. It is at best a decent movie. The only reason why it is remembered is because it codified that angry young man persona. अगर अमिताभ नहीं था मूवी में, अगर प्राण नहीं था मूवी में, मूवी चलती नहीं. कुछ नहीं है उस मूवी में, ठीक है. But it is essentially recontextualizing that with the gangster, with a vigilante, and with an entire Zanjeer theme.
I mean, I like.
Unserious cinephilia with Zanjeer का गाना यारी है इमाम मेरा at the end is like peak Vasant Bala, to which I was like, you know what? ठीक है.
So
चलता है.
I think that's the
But
difference. I
like-
feel I was never teak with a lot of these things. I was just like, I wanted it to choose that lane. I was like, if you're going to go for that sincerity, go for it. Don't keep your Hans Raj, Landa, and
no, but
whatever
I
nonsense
don't
you have there.
I don't expect that from Bala. Like, I watched Monica, Oh My Darling probably days. I think 1 or 2 days before I saw Jigra. And for me, the biggest problem with Monica, Oh My Darling is I don't think it commits to its stupidity. Like, I still think Vasant Bala thinks he's doing something really smart and tricking the audience
Sir,
and
वही
doing
ना,
something.
वो तो stupidity नहीं है, वो stupidity दिखा के वो wink करता है कि हाँ देखो
Winking
कितना smart
sensibility
हूँ मैं,
है.
हाँ कितना smart हूँ मैं, and
No,
I'm
but
like, that is
if
my
you
reaction.
want to wink, no, because the problem with winking and the way that he winks it is, it's just he is trying to be smarter than the audience when he's not. And that I would much rather prefer this kind of sincerity,
maybe I
borderline.
didn't get that feeling when I
यहाँ
first
पर
watched Monica,
पर
and if I
मुझे बहुत ही
rewatch it, I
कम
do.
लगा
नहीं,
यहाँ
यहाँ
पर
पे
मुझे
वो
बहुत ही कम
स्मार्ट
लगा
स्मग सेंसिबिलिटी तो नहीं है, बट यहाँ पे वो distracting sensibility, I would say, for me. Like, it's like, I'm like, just keep these things away. Like, if you are confident enough in making this film without all the, like, it's weird to make this complaint. I was like, the type of auteur's project I wished which had none of the cinephile stamped marks of its auteur. I'm like, that's kind of defeating the purpose
that's
of
Sidney
want.
Lumet that's
Yeah,
Sidney
but
Lumet
you know, I was just like, give me a drama with Alia Bhatt in this role. Like, I like her in this role. I thought,
Yeah, would I have liked it more if there was no Vivek Gomber being cast as quote unquote Hansraj Landa, or some of the prisoners being called named as John Woo or Wong Kar Wai?
I was like, John
Sure.
Woo and come on, boss. Like that's like
Sure.
kindergarten stuff. I'm like, just I know you like your cinephilia, but I'm just like, find ways to integrate it in a more like in.
See,
I think for
problem
me,
क्या है, but
this is the compromise. This is the compromise of Vasan Bala's cinephilic tendencies
goes
in
to
a
show
film that is still enjoyable to watch.
goes to show
which
which
is what
movie I
kind
like
of
of his more. Goes to show which movie of his I like more at this point. It's like auteur's tendency को dub कम
Exactly.
करो.
Yeah, I mean,
नहीं
in this
चाहिए
movie,
हमें.
I would have had it come also. I just, again, I think I'm spoiled by Sriram Raghavan too much. For me, it's
सर
just
वो
like,
मेरा भी प्रॉब्लम है वो मेरा भी प्रॉब्लम है कुछ
yeah.
नहीं कर सकते
Hmm.
like Merry
So,
Christmas I still think is weaker Sriram Raghavan but that movie
yeah.
is so goddamn enjoyable I can't
Yeah.
even
I mean,
like,
it's just,
क्या
I
ही-
just see the way in which the references are used there versus here. Like, I mean, I would
Yeah,
say, like, if
exactly.
you want to do a sort of difference in how people use references in films, that's what, anyways, I didn't click with it. I think is the biggest way to put it. Like, I
I
just
clicked with it
emotionally.
enough देखो
Yeah.
हिंदी मूवीज का वैसे भी एक बहुत खराब टाइम चल रहा है ठीक है बहुत ही खराब time चल रहा
Exactly.
है
And I am someone who dislikes Monica, my darling. I'm again getting another juta. I don't really like Alia Bhatt as an actor.
Yeah, you
Not
don't like,
my
yeah,
cup of
exactly.
tea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you are
And
the Alia
I
Bhatt hater. Are you the Deepika lover? Are you the Deepika fan?
not
ट्विटर में तो वही दो
necessarily
कैंप है
either.
ट्विटर में तो वही दो
No,
कैंप
Hey,
है
I'm a
in this
huge
one,
Alia Bhatt fan. So you know, for me, a lot of it comes down to her also. Like, I think she's
and
good in
again,
this, but yeah.
she's
yeah,
quite
she's
good in
good.
this
The fact
honestly
that
she's
I
quite
liked
good
her
in this
performance in this, so I was literally primed to hate this film. Like I went in expecting that मुझे पसंद नहीं आएगी.
Yeah.
And the fact that I liked it, especially days after watching Monica, oh my darling, is to me a testament to the fact that there is something about Bala's sensibility that when restrained can work.
Sure.
For me at least.
Sure. Got it. Understood.
another positive sentiment towards auteur's tendency को कम करो one is disclaimer another is disclaimer is the negative
Auteur's tendency को छोटा करो is disclaimer. इसमें
छोटा
कम
करो.
करो is that. हाँ.
इसमें
छोटा
कम
करो.
करो,
I think Alfonso Cuarón can make disclaimer into a very watchable, even passable movie.
Alfonso
which is,
Cuarón should
Movie.
Alfonso Cuarón should release disclaimer / the movie cut
yes.
2 hours and 20
डेढ़
minutes.
घंटा.
Last episode डालो Kate Blanchett के साथ बस खत्म. You know, like it's that.
नहीं पीछे वो सारे एपिसोड के like 20 minutes कर दो
हाँ.
सेक्स सीन थोड़ा डाल देना प्लीज चाहिए नहीं तो कोई नहीं देगा
The uncut. The uncut.
yes the uncut yes
He also really likes his iris ins and outs. There's lots of iris
Oh,
ins
yeah.
and outs in that show.
Yeah,
Anyways.
lots of them.
lots
I
of
was
those
like,
yes
Yeah, I mean, have fun with your technique, boss. I'm sorry, I didn't have fun watching your techniques. But anyhow, you have given me too much in terms of movies that I can only be so mad at disclaimer. I only need to go back and watch.
but we are
Children of
mad
Men.
but
we are mad at
yes.
disclaimer, yeah.
We are
But
extremely
don't
mad.
worry, I will rewatch Children of Men and I will forgive you again. Don't worry.
I
That
will
will be very
rewatch
special to
Roma,
me.
a movie which I don't
Yeah.
like to rewatch, but I would rewatch Roma.
No, I
really
would
like
watch his
Roma.
whole filmography just to, regain my faith in him. But yeah.
But no disclaimer, sir. Sorry.
No
नहीं देख रहा
disclaimer,
मैं वो.
No,
Sorry.
and again, I remind that Kate Blanchett and I think Sacha Baron Cohen or Alfonso Cuarón only in some interview said that I wish the audience watches the series once more.
Sorry, Karan.
सॉरी टाइम नहीं है.
Yeah.
टाइम नहीं है,
Also, if
बहुत
you
कुछ
if you
देखना
are
है.
interested in watching Kate Blanchett in a similar role in a much more complicated film, watch Tar by Todd Field. I think that's a
Yes,
much
great
better
movie.
depiction of
Great
her
movie. Yes.
that sort of character in which
टॉड फील्ड 16 साल बाद फिर से मूवी मत करना, ठीक है? एक मूवी रिसेंट
sir,
कर दो,
he's the
ठीक है?
Eyes Wide Shut alumni or alumnus, whatever you want to call him. He's in Eyes Wide Shut.
He is in Eyes Wide Shut, yes.
Yep. Anyways,
Doesn't change the fact that the movie is not good.
What's that?
Fuck.
Want to calculate इस एपिसोड के लिए कितने जूते पड़ेंगे?
count calculate कर लो. We just see on Twitter if you get any responses which are very like demeaning. But anyways,
Don't tag any of the filmmakers and you'll be fine. If you tag any of the filmmakers, तब जूते पड़ेंगे. बहुत
there's only
जूते
one filmmaker actually we can tag in this, which is I think Steve McQueen, because we've been the most like respectably constructive
वो
criticism to
सुनेगा ही
him.
नहीं, वो बोलेगा
Oh,
ये लो,
and
ये छापड़, ये
that
कटर छाप पब्लिक कौन है?
that I
निकालो
know.
इन लोग.
That I know, but like still, I'm just saying. And also, we can put Vasan Bala in it. I've only criticized him. You guys to like reappraise.
No, don't tag anybody. बहुत disrespectful है. Tag मत करो. कोई
अच्छा
जरूरत
चलो
नहीं है.
ठीक है.
I will make
I
like a
think
list of all the people we are offending with this episode when I tweet it
not.
out so
I
that people
think
can
we've
get.
done. I think we've done a pretty detailed why we don't like these and why I think
And also like
disappointed.
Dhruv के discussion पे है. Like Dhruv can edit out all of the parts which where
I'm
we
not going to
directly
edit out stuff. I'm going to go all Kanu Bahel on this.
No, you edit out the stuff which I told you to edit out. क्योंकि
Yeah,
नहीं
yeah,
तो
yeah,
मेरा
of
मेरा कोई
course.
जॉब वॉब नहीं रहेगा.
Yeah, of
एक ही
course.
जॉब है अभी तक, वो
Of
जॉब भी
course,
नहीं
of course.
रहेगा.
Yeah, I will. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I know it's a long one, but hopefully you enjoyed it. We had like a lot to discuss about these 6 films. We all partly wanted to vent about, partly wanted to argue about, partly wanted to just talk about. So hopefully now much better things to discuss. I know the best of will come, so of course we'll have a lot of praises flowing in a lot of films direction. Hopefully Chris's 2 selections for Luca Guadagnino do something for me, because his films have often left me a little cold. But
Oh yeah, you
yeah.
did not like Challengers. क्या
No, I
बंदा
like
है?
Challengers.
I just
didn't love
rewatched it.
Challengers. Let's be very clear. I like
Unacceptable.
Challengers. I still think that
And
Zendaya
also
character is
petition
the
to let Dhruv let me do a musical episode and be very nerdy
But we did
sometime.
know you did Emilia Perez पे इतनी गालियां तो दी हैं.
वो
सर
एमिलिया
एमिलिया
पेरेस की
पेरेस
गलती
का
है
गाली मैंने दिया है. एमिलिया पेरेस का बेस्ट गाली मैंने दिया है. वो सालों कर दो
सर मुझे
सबको.
विकट और 48 पे भी बहुत बोलना है, मैंने कुछ बोला नहीं.
Oh God. Okay. I think we will do a musical episode, but in that I will have to select something which is actually good also, not just Wicked and Joker for
Yeah, and मुझे मत बुलाना उस
आपको
episode
नहीं
में.
बुलाएंगे हम उसमें, don't
आपको
worry.
नहीं बोला है.
वरुण को बुलाएंगे, वो भी खराब कर देगा एपिसोड, बट ठीक है. Anyways, you can follow Chris at PRDS Chris on Instagram and Twitter पे मैं लिंक कर
Lima
दूंगा.
J7.
Lim J7.
Yes,
Lim
Lima or
thank you.
J7.
Yes.
Okay.
And because Chris is consistently still on Twitter, the hellhole. And Amartya, you can follow at Amartya25 on Instagram. On Twitter, I don't know Amartya, your ID. I followed you, but I don't know
Doesn't
your
matter,
ID.
जो भी हो, कोई follow नहीं करेगा, follow मत करो.
Follow the podcast, Quid Podcast
Yes.
on Twitter, please.
Yes,
Please follow that, please.
Admin by yours truly.
Yes, and
और अगर मुझे मूड होगा मैं कंट्रोल ले लूंगा और मैं कुछ झगड़ा कर दूंगा लोगों से. कोई
Yeah,
बात
and
So
नहीं.
Chris
आप
will
झगड़ा
be
उस अकाउंट से करो.
and Chris will be very like nicely every hopefully week dropping chat secrets, leaking the chats
Yes.
essentially, which basically
I've got so
prove
many
how
screenshots I need to.
which basically prove how much of something Varun is against a certain sect
I
of
was
people.
going to say इस हफ्ते का वरुण का screenshot for the sake of our sanity I have not put.
It would be a
Otherwise,
treat for our Chinese listening audience, which is a total of 0. But anyways,
अगर वो चैट निकल जाए तो नेगेटिव पे चला जाएगा. कोई नहीं सुनेगा.
I have set in the cough of anything you say in that group chat will go on Twitter. which is very fun.
Anyways,
John
thank-
Cassavetes, the killing of a Chinese bookie will actually become true by the way. इसके बाद.
On that note, I think we'll take your leave and thank you so much for listening to us went and khatam.
三位为日以听信日日希望。
What did he say? What did he say?